To order because it's 6:30 and we like to be on time because the poor guy on TV really wants us to be on time. I apologize that I have forgot our name tags, so we got open seating. So sit where you want tonight, but in Dover we'll get seating, assigned seating back. So we always start with introductions, so we'll start all the way on the left with the audience.
Oh, with the audience. Audience.
Oh, we always get we always have everybody introduce themselves.
You're on TV.
Oh, okay. Augusta Bartlett, Marlboro, resident.
Former select board member extraordinaire.
Former school board member,
School board.
extraordinaire.
Oh, I thought she was select board in too, no? Oh, well, moving on.
I'm Robin MacArthur. I'm a graduate and have 2 kids in the school system.
I'm Paul Butler. I live in Marlboro.
Right on the Dover Marlboro line, don't you?
Yes.
I've seen your posted signs.
Ah.
My property butts yours.
Oh, okay. Through the woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carol Ann Johnson, Marlboro and Marlboro School Board.
Former Dover resident.
Former Dover resident.
Lucy Grotwick, Marlboro resident.
Randy Capitani, Dover resident. Dwight Borum, Wardsboro resident.
Mike Murphy, Wardsboro resident.
Chip Fickery, Dover School Board.
Rich Werner from Dover.
John Everett serves as a consultant to the committee.
Selena Romo, Marlboro School Board. Laura Sibilia, Dover School Board.
And the video guy who's behind the camera and he waves, but you can't see him wave. So our first item of business, folks, is to approve the agenda from the last meeting. I mean, the minutes from the last meeting. And you should all have them sent to you and, well, I'm sorry, I had additions, deletions to the agenda. I forgot that comes first. Anybody got any additions or deletions? Jill Dean is not here. They wanted Anita wanted to have a short discussion about the town meeting, a brochure, town meeting day flyer. So I'm gonna just add that under the communication plan, because that comes about the same time. And she was gonna come tonight just to see how things are going, and to get updated on that. So if you just add that, town meeting flyer. Is anybody else with any additions or deletions?
To the agenda.
Yeah. Okay,
I have a change, I think.
go ahead, sir.
It lists John Moran as a member of the committee. And,
I'm moving on to the minutes.
what's that?
Are you
Oh,
moving on to the minutes?
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten to the minutes yet.
I'm sorry.
Are you guys okay? Can you see okay? Do we
Can't
need
see
to
you.
change things? I
Sorry.
feel like,
We're kind of over here with our back to
yeah.
the.
What
You guys can
we've
slide.
done last time is
Yeah.
we put chairs over
Or could we
here.
could
You
just
move on.
swing the whole thing around? Or listen to the agenda.
Well, then we won't be
No,
able to
we're
see
good.
each
Yeah,
other.
that one worked too.
Oh,
Well,
I thought I missed it.
We're almost in the front row.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Randy, watch your back. I got you covered. If I see anything, I'll let you know. Lucy?
Carol Ann's deadly.
Bunny ears.
Okay. So
Sorry
if there's
about
no
that.
additions or deletions to the agenda, let's go to approve the September 22nd minutes. Dwight, you have
Sorry about
something?
that.
No problem.
Yeah. No, I just noticed John Moran was listed as on the committee. I don't believe he is, as far as I can tell.
Nope.
And also, I remember sitting next to Laura at the meeting, and her name's not on as present.
Oh my
Oh, you
gosh.
came a little late. I
Yeah.
thought.
That is like a Freudian.
I was late. You were late. Dwight was here.
Yeah,
I
he
was
brought, remember, he brought newspapers.
Right.
Randy
Yeah.
arrived at 6:57.
here. Right.
Okay, so we gotta
that's-
just make that change, Selena, if you
yeah.
could.
I have a couple of
I have-
corrections
I
too.
have something too.
Okay, so why don't we,
Well,
Dwight, are
Lucy,
you
go
all
first.
good? You had the floor.
I didn't make it past there, so. Just
Okay.
Kidding. Just kidding.
Randy,
Your name,
Thank you.
actually on the second page, 2/3 of the way down, my name's misspelled. Again, on the third page, not that those are big deals, but on the last page, talking about somebody calling Vernon to see if they're gonna continue to be interested. It says Mr. Winrich, wasn't that gonna be you, Mr. Werner?
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close. That's the big correction.
Okay.
Greenwich. Didn't see that. Maybe you will with it.
You can tell that he edits things for a living. Huh?
Actually, I
Oh.
pay somebody else to edit my stuff.
Our request under the info from previous meetings, just changing the word as to however. Now, I don't have the minutes right in front of me, so.
What page are we on?
The
It's
idea.
the,
However,
yeah. Where is it?
I remember reading that
last
somewhere.
sentence in the
It
first
just,
paragraph.
it didn't come across
Right here,
the way I
somewhere
made
in
it.
here.
Yes, the first one.
Page 2, bottom section.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change,
Showstopper expresses hope to get the best articles possible. However, she cannot vote for it. She's a 7th grade, 8th grader, not a student.
okay.
You okay
Thank you.
with that? So we're doing the minutes, approving the minutes, and we had some changes. Do you have a copy, or are you all set?
I don't have a copy.
You wanna look at a copy quick? Oh, Randy's got his down there. So, we've made some changes, so if somebody would make a motion to approve the minutes as changed or as corrected.
I so
Motion.
move.
Lucy will move, Chip,
Second.
Victory seconds it. You all set? Jill, let me know when you're ready.
Hey, Rich, while we're waiting, can I just throw a comment out? It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with the minutes, but if possible, could we get these before the day of the meeting?
Yeah, here's
No,
the,
and-
here's the deal, because we send the agenda out early and then I try to make all the corrections. I thought he was sending these out
Okay.
to everybody and I just noticed that they don't go to everybody, because that's why I wound up.
Because I didn't get mine till this morning, and
Yeah.
it
Right.
makes it hard to.
No, I
you know.
agree.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you get all this stuff and you try to read it beforehand, it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, cause I didn't, like, the stuff from John just came in, I think you sent that out Monday night.
Oh, good,
or
hang
Tuesday.
John out to dry on it, that's good.
Well, no, it makes it, it does make it difficult.
I mean, I do like getting it all in one email versus
Yeah.
piecemeal, I think that's good, but even a day earlier, just, and give everybody more time to look at it, if we can do it.
Okay. So, if there's no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Hey, we're just doing introductions quick, so would you take a second to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Jill Dean from Wardsboro.
And we got,
Hi, Anita Raphael, Wardsboro also.
which, we come right up to communication plan update, and I also put in there the thing about the town meeting that you want to speak about.
Sure, this is super quick. So, the blog has been continuously updated with stuff as it's coming in, and things. Press release went out, public service announcements have gone out, the schools have all received posters, town clerks have received posters, town libraries have received posters. The big press release got printed with a couple of glitches, but as Mr. Everett said, no harm done so far, and thank you all for your edits and corrections on that. And I just wanted to do a show and tell. This is from the town of Guilford, and this is what they're putting in their polling places on November 8th, so that anybody who's voting on November 8th, on the premise they might want to vote again on town meeting day. This is their Act 46 brochure, and this is a brochure that the Leland and Gray towns have created through Mr. Everett. This is just a draft, and this is what they're going to finish, hopefully, and put out to their voters in their polling places in their 5 towns. So we have time, I have time to do something for you, this group as well, if you want to do something in your polling places. Just a little FYI on that. There are 850-something people in the town of Wardsboro. There are 320-ish something registered voters, and about 80 people vote. So it's not like you have to make 850 copies of everything. All we'd have to do is contact the town clerks and say, what's your best guess, what your attendance will be on voting day, and then make that many copies. And in our towns, the town clerk should probably run them off. It doesn't have to be two-sided like this. It could just be a one-sided thing. Or this was pretty slick. This was color and had a lot of razzle-dazzle to it.
Can you pass that around to me?
Oh, of course. You are certainly welcome to look at it. I don't have digital copies of these, or I would have emailed them. So this one has charts and numbers and all that. And I don't know, John, did you have input in this one as well? Is this your
No,
one?
I have nothing to do
Just
with
this
that.
one?
This one.
Okay. So this is what these are, and I'm more than happy to create that if you give me some indication. Rich and I can work on that as to what you want to put in it. And one more little item, Laura Sevilla had expressed in an email that she was concerned about op-eds being connected to this website. I reached out to all of the candidates that were on the Wardsboro ballot, and I asked that in the other towns' ballots, and for a Senate and state representative, and I said, do you all want to link to this website? And I didn't hear back from anybody except Laura and John Moran, who both said, thanks, I will link that to my website and Facebook page. We are not linking to them, they are linking to us. But Laura's concern was posting op-eds and articles of different opinions, links to it from the blog site. As far as I know, the things that are linked are all news articles, and there's one op-ed which was written by one of you. I forgot who. And so, do you want to comment, or do you always want to put that on the table for another time?
No,
and
let's
another discussion?
discuss that.
Laura?
Oh, no, I don't mind starting it. I mean, originally, we talked about linking stuff. There's, I mean, out of Vermont Digger, there's, I mean, I was getting people sending me hundreds of emails, you know, with all different articles, and a lot of them are opinions, and some of them don't even have all the facts right. So I thought when we first discussed it, we had originally said, you know, we just wanted news articles, not,
Right.
you know, something that's kind of impartial, not my thoughts or my opinions. So that was my only concern is that I didn't want, I've seen some stuff that, you know, has been totally way off base. I mean, it's saying that this is what happens with Act 46, and it really isn't. So
Right.
that's why I thought that, you know, the concern was just make sure they're newsworthy, because, or they're more of an article than a
Right,
than
so
an
there are
opinion piece.
4 links on there. 3 are to news articles and 1 is to an op-ed. That was published on Vermont Digger. But it was published with a byline as an article, not as an op-ed, but it has the tone of an op-ed.
Okay. Yeah.
So, may I?
Yeah.
Okay, so my concern is just with, you know, if have articles about what this group is doing, I think those should be absolutely published and covered. I think op-eds are a slippery slope, and where do you stop? You know, and which ones go up and which ones don't, and then you start getting subjective, and I don't know that that's the work of this group or how much that is adding to this group. You know, I think people who are interested in what other people's opinions are have lots of places to look for it. That was my concern, and
Right.
I will leave that at that, but I just wanted to explain.
Right, the
my
3
concern.
links that are on there are to Deerfield Valley News about Act 46 in general, not specifically this committee, and the 1 op-ed, and I'm happy to remove that.
It's not up to me.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not
it's
up
on,
to me.
it's, and that's, you know, is there any other thoughts or opinions?
Just on the op-eds, and even on flyers, I think one of the flyers I saw said vote yes.
Yeah, the Guilford flyer right on the
You really
back.
shouldn't be using public money to do that.
Agreed.
So-
Totally agree.
So just news and information, and not trying to convince people to vote one way or the other.
So I can't put vote for me.
3 or 4 people
Not
have asked
directly.
to be on the email blast, so I have gotten 3 or 4 emails through the WCSU media email saying add me to the mailing list, but I haven't had anything to really mail yet, other than public
Okay,
service
well,
announcements.
are we all good with this op-ed thing? Is everybody in agreement with that? Yes.
One more clarification, wasn't there also a discussion about comments from articles that people could leave? We decided not to allow that, does that fall under an op-ed as well?
Well, the way the website is set up, there's a tab for feedback. And I think what we discussed is that people would send in the email, And either if it was between meetings, I would contact Rich and he would decide how to respond, or or whether or not it would be posted. So to date, I've received no email saying, here's my comment.
Okay,
And all I've received are emails saying, add me to the mailing list.
all right, but they'll be
So-
treated the same way, I guess?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
there also a notion that that could become part of the frequently asked questions?
Exactly.
Right.
So if somebody asks
Right.
that question,
Mhm.
that could go there.
Right, and I just want to also mention that all the presentations from the principals have gone live. Those are all up on there under school information, so that was an addition either yesterday or today that I did. And again, working off the primary purpose that we discussed at the first meeting of what this PR is for, my goal is to make sure y'all are covered as much as I can cover you, so that when that one voter comes out of the woodwork and says, I didn't know anything about it, we can say, but we did all this, and so hopefully I'm doing enough to satisfy that requirement.
Okay, so that kind of covers the op-ed piece and kind of a brief update. Let's talk about the polling, and it's only made it halfway around, actually. You guys can start there. So, what do you folks think about having something available for the press, for the polling places on November 8th? Does everybody think that's a good idea?
And I think
Yes.
also there could be pieces left at the town offices, so that,
The same brochure,
Same thing.
or
Could be.
not brochure, but little pamphlet,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. So, yes, Randy?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I will, because I've looked at it and not everybody has, I'll echo John's sentiment. The Guilford piece I think would be totally inappropriate because it is encouraging a certain kind of vote. But what the WCSU other side did, I think would be fine. I would have information in there encouraging people to go to the meetings that we have scheduled, since we have a schedule, and ask them to show up.
Right,
Yeah.
and to look
On
at,
the
and or to look
And
at
to
the
go to the
blogs,
website,
I
of
watch
course.
the videos.
I
Read
want-
local media. everything.
You all set,
I
Randy?
wonder
Yeah.
whether we want to put something in that's saying it does come up for a vote, and if it's turned down, I mean, you don't want it to also sound as if it's a done deal. You don't.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
That
that there's an
you'll
alternative.
decide at town meeting day, you will decide.
Yeah, and if you decide not, this is what happens.
Do we know exactly what happens?
Well, we know that then,
It's like,
Well, we know, yeah, right.
Well, we know then that you either have to try to put together an alternative structure,
right,
or you can just sit there and wait and see what the state does.
right, and there are no tanks involved.
There's no
Not
what?
yet.
Tanks
Not
involved
yet.
rolling down the
No,
street.
they took all the
yeah.
tanks away from the guard.
Got it. Yeah, I think
There may
that
be
makes,
invading armies, but no tanks.
I think that makes sense, but again, it has to be carefully worded so that,
you're not pushing the vote either
yeah,
way.
so here's your opportunity to inform yourself so that when the vote comes up, you know what your decision will be.
So, if everybody's in agreement, is that something we want, since John did the one for Leland and Gray, do we want him to just work on that, maybe with Anita?
Well, I've taken it over
She's
now.
taken
Oh,
it
you
over.
took it over.
That was just a draft.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
it's
taken over.
mine now.
Well, so I'm sorry.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And so I will clone that or create that or doctor that up. And all I need to know from you is you want to do one-sided, two-sided, you want to load it up, or you want to keep it simple. So a little bit of direction is all I need. And
I will open it up. What do you all think, especially you media type people? Not looking at you.
I
down
personally
there.
like trifolds.
Sure.
They're small, they go in my pocket, I can, and that there's lots of information, and I like, this one actually aesthetically bothers me because of the two pieces
I
like
can
within.
fix that.
But you know what I mean, like, if it's like bulleted information for one town, another, and
Yeah.
how it's all gonna affect all three of us, and what it's gonna look like when it's all together, I think it's really positive.
Okay,
But
then that's what I'll shoot for.
I have to say too, I like trifolds, and we need to use both sides because otherwise it's a waste.
Not a trifold.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
really like that one.
All right,
The Leland and Gray one?
yeah.
I'm really upset that they got theirs first. I thought we were leading the way. Anybody else? Any other comments? Yeah, I thought you were our consultant first.
So the next time I want
Yeah,
to
I'll
do
pass
is.
that back to the
That's
audience.
right, John.
You're tired of Negroes,
No, I just,
What?
General public.
So,
Do we need to put
so
this
why
to
don't,
vote?
I
No.
don't think we need to
No.
put
You
it-
just need to tell me what to do.
Well, I think by general consent, we're all in agreement, there's nobody disagreeing.
Yeah.
Why don't you, if you can mock up
Absolutely.
something and then send it out, and
Yeah.
I'll send it to the committee, we'll get feedback. So we need to, the polling is the 8th, right,
Right.
is when we go to the, so probably, now, what are we gonna do, just print it a member from each town print?
I think that's the way to
25
go, or
copies and
ask your
fold
town
it, or-
clerks or whatever to do it.
Is
I'm not
that
sure.
okay? So is there somebody from each town would be willing to help us out with that?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we print them at the school? Copy them at the school?
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
see why not. The other thing is the next major press release, I need to target date for when you want that to go out. When your articles come back from the state, or when your articles are more finished and ready for public review.
I would like to see it go out earlier so that we can say, here was another major press release. That's my thought, because that's one of the things that I think can be taken away from the issue in
WSW.
thank you.
Yeah.
Was that, the not enough public engagement.
Alright, so what would be
And
your
then we'll get to
target for the next press release date then, and content?
Before the election.
Yeah,
To let
yeah.
people know that there's gonna be information at the polling places.
Absolutely. That's a good one. That's a good reason to put a press release out. I would agree with that.
Get the
Okay,
information at the polling places.
Yeah.
Even if you're repeating a lot of what
And
was
even
in
if
the
it's
first
just
one.
a smaller press release.
Yeah.
okay.
It doesn't have to be 1,000 words.
Yeah, well, I was looking for a progress report type stuff.
Hopefully it made,
I think-
some progress in,
Well, I keep looking at your
Well,
timeline,
that's what I was gonna say.
trying to circle what are your milestones.
We're looking, sorry, Rich, we're looking to send the articles by November 10th, more or less.
Well, we're gonna have a discussion about that in a little bit, so we can update her on
Okay,
that.
so-
Alright, so I'll just listen in for what might be content for that next press release prior to polling, and that means I have to get it to Randy well before, cause we have to have it in. I need his deadline is the critical one.
It's, the Tuesday, the last week of October.
Right, and we're
2
too
weeks,
late for
basically.
the Bucketville News, and we're already over the Marlboro Mixer. Their next one isn't until December 15th.
Okay.
So, but I certainly can do front porch stuff as well.
The other thing, somebody, John just mentioned too, is we wanna make sure in this brochure and everything we're doing in the press release, that if you have any comments or any questions or any input you'd like to give, here's where the meetings are,
Definitely.
or give them my contact information, they can send it to me, and then I can bring it to the group.
Definitely.
Because that definitely shows engaging the public also.
Yeah, that's been in the PSAs and in the press releases,
Okay.
how to get in touch.
Is
Okay.
everybody okay with that? Is there any more we need to discuss with that?
Well, if you think of something, I'll be over there.
Okay. Hey, folks.
November
Again,
1st.
I hate to do this, but if somebody was to have a question, I can't see you folks. I'd really love you guys if you could move over here and then.
Or you and I can switch seats.
Well, if you really could move, it would really be appreciated because, and we want input from the public. I mean, that's what we're discussing too. So if you have a question or a comment or something while we're going through stuff, please raise your hand.
we won't bite.
We promise.
Well,
Now that my kids have gone home, I'm more comfortable being right here.
thank you, I really appreciate that, folks. And then we just passed over there, and if you guys want, we have this copy from Guilford, even though we kinda kiboshed that, so we'll get that to the audience here soon. Yes? Okay, so we're moving right along, we're a little bit ahead of time, but, we had only 2 things from the previous meeting that we want to answer, was the financial modeling and assets and debts of each school. And Mr. Everett gave us that.
I didn't give you the assets and debts. We're making progress on that, but
Okay.
with the superintendent's office, but we're not there yet.
Okay, so you sent out to us,
The
That one.
revised financial sheet.
okay, did everybody get that?
Yes.
And does anybody have any questions?
An updated one or the one from last time?
No, this is
Updated.
updated.
Oh,
It's dated, 10/5/2016 on the top.
It's not that different.
No, it's not a lot
No.
different.
No. I made some notes on there, so pardon my marks. but-
And, because I didn't put a spot in there from the last meeting, I did contact Vernon, Vernon is still interested in having the availability to be able to come here. But their thing really hinges on the vote that's happening. When is Vernon's vote happening? Somebody help me. They got moved back. I think it's November, beginning of November.
I think it's that's on election day.
Yeah, okay, so that would make sense, November 8th. So they're kind of in a holding pattern until they see what happens with that and where they go with that. So they still do have interest in joining with us, yes.
Then we need to move forward and prepare our articles without them.
Yes. No, I think we kind of decided that. And
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that because we can't wait for them.
No.
Okay.
And I totally agree. And I think they haven't been sending anybody the meeting. I've been sending them the minutes and the agendas, and that's it. And then assets and debts will push off to the next meeting, so that'll be on the agenda for information from previous meetings. It still needs to be answered. So now we go to the reason we're all here today. Oh, I had it in the parking lot, burning information. Sorry about that, guys. I messed you all up.
Well, that's okay. We got it done.
So, there's a 21-page document that Mr. Everett sent us all.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
And everybody has 30 seconds to read it.
Well, we're gonna read through it as a group anyways.
They didn't get that till yesterday?
No,
I got it
that's
this
when I
morning.
got it. You sent it to me
Last night.
Monday or Tuesday.
Well, I guess I didn't look at it until this morning.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I sent it
That
earlier.
came to me in an
Go,
email. You want me to
forward
forward
and
it?
go over, and I couldn't have time to get it out.
It's all in it. Yeah. Yeah, just
So-
give me your email address.
WCSU Elementary
Do I have your email
Act
address?
E2.
Yes.
Yeah. You got mine?
Oh, well, you got a nice big screen.
So, page 1. WCSU Elementary Act 46 Study Committee Report without a date because obviously it's not done yet. Authorization to engage in the study gives the dates that we all voted here in Marlboro.
This.
And then it has a date.
One from last.
It has a date for Vernon to join if they decide to join. It has a date that we elected. We set up our study committee and I notified the Commissioner of Education. And the recommended articles of agreement obviously don't have a date because we haven't done that yet. And then we go to committee members, which I think are all right.
Can I ask a clarifying question
Yeah.
before we go any further? Are we gonna remove that one sentence about the Vernon Board of Directors?
No, we'll leave that until we hear from them because we're not ready to send this off yet. So if they do, or we can pull it out, I mean, that's a simple cut. Is everybody good with that? Report is divided into 4 sections: record of committee deliberations, articles of agreement, state information template, and attachments.
The state information template will actually be a separate document. I got that clarification today. That'll keep it from growing to 31 pages.
Okay, so attachments and then record of committee deliberations on page 2. Exploratory committee, during the spring of 2016, WCSU formed an Act 46 exploratory committee with the charge of consider the goals of Act 46 and to recommend to the school boards of the Wyndham Central SU actions that may be taken in a coordinated way to maximize benefit for students, taxpayers, and communities. The exploratory process considering a case for action that included relatively flat residential enrollment, recent difficult budget decisions trending towards reducing student opportunities, the state mandate to develop larger school districts, the coming loss of state support for small schools and enrollment protections, and the incentives to support local action. The case was strong enough for the exploratory committee to recommend WCSU take action to form unified school districts. The exploratory committee reviewed possible options.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you wanna go through this whole thing
Yes.
without comments?
No, interrupt or raise your hand when we get done with the section. Let's do the section and then,
Okay.
okay? So then the exploratory committee reviewed possible options with special attention for the following evaluation criteria. The new structure should strengthen educational opportunity for all students throughout the region, assure the ability to focus on the needs of the individual student, assure strong community connections, provide the opportunity to function more efficiently, to put more resources into quality and equity of education, and to address taxpayer concerns and result in incentives for homestead taxpayers. So comments on that section. Laura, go ahead.
Just so I'm clear, recent difficult budget decisions trending toward reducing student opportunities.
Where's that from, sir?
This is all from the exploratory committee notes,
Okay.
which was
Okay.
whole SU-wide.
So,
But I wasn't part of that.
so my questions are gonna be, all focused on how do I explain this to people who ask me questions about this report. And so with this particular piece, I am not aware of that being a situation on the school board that I have served on. And so I'm wondering, with this particular study committee, if we can talk a little bit about.
Yeah, because we should make at least a note that it hasn't happened in these three schools, if
Well,
that's true.
If that's true.
Okay, so, Marlboro School.
Can- Which,
Board.
where are you in? Sorry,
So-
I'm trying to do two things. at once.
Recent difficult budget decisions trending toward reducing student opportunities. Have you had any experience with that in Marlboro?
Not really. I mean, we figured out how to make that not happen.
You gotta make choices.
Yeah, I mean, there was some questions last year with the budget caps, with that penalty, and whether or not we take the penalty and keep our programming, which is what we decided to do. And it ended up being okay, because they reduced the penalty on us, so we didn't lose anything, but, I mean, that was a conversation, but we never ended up cutting any programming.
But there was a conversation, so you had a decision to make.
Right.
Okay. Wardsboro, you respond as a school board member?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but I've only been on for a few months. I haven't been involved in the budget process yet.
Okay, town meeting?
Not a difficult decisions. Outside of balancing a budget, which is never super fun to begin with, no.
Okay.
Right, just
Comments from the audience? Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I just think, in general, like, I'll give you a perfect example. If you were sending, maybe not in an elementary school situation, but certainly if you were sending a student to Leland and Gray 15 years ago versus sending them there now, their opportunities would be greatly diminished. There's no more Journey East to the extent that it was in the old days. Sports programs have been cut, so I think you can make that argument on the district-wide sentiment, and that does affect what we do with our students, because you have to look at other schools, or you may have to look at other programs, so I think that's probably where the WCSU is coming from when they made this. It's putting words in our mouth. I understand what you're saying.
So,
Yeah, I think
Why
that
not
was
just put
more-
something
Well, how
about
about,
supervised union-wide, just
no,
sort of
I've
add
got,
that
how about
qualifier.
this?
Make it a general statement
Hang on.
about schools in general.
Folks, let me throw this out. Difficult budget decisions that could trend towards reducing student opportunities.
It's open-ended.
Pardon?
It's open-ended.
Right, because
Yeah,
also,
sure.
remember, if we move forward and we lose the small school grants, we're gonna have a difficult decision to make. Where's that 60,000? Where's that 70,000? Whatever each school gets, where's that gonna come from? That's a teacher salary right there. So I think it kind of, because remember too, we're also thinking ahead. This isn't about right now, and although we may all be okay right now, in the future, are we gonna be okay also? Especially if we have reducing enrollment. Go ahead, Laura.
So it does note the coming loss of state support for small schools. I would like to suggest, because these articles will just be for the 3 elementary schools, right, John? Not for.
The articles, yes.
Yes. So perhaps and I recognize that this paragraph is about the initial process that the supervisory union
Yeah.
went through. I actually would suggest maybe we just want to be a little bit more specific here. That within the SU, not within these 3.
Mhm.
Yeah, you need to say that, I think.
But I think the coming loss of state support grants and enrollment protections does affect
But that is,
every,
but that's in here.
right.
Yeah.
So
So-
I'll put within the supervisory union, the exploratory process considered a case for action. Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's better.
don't
think that's
see,
clear.
I don't see money flowing anywhere. But I also think that it's important that if we say something like that, we're very, very clear. And so that suggests that, to me, you know, someone has had a hard time passing their budget or has had to cut programs. And that may be the case. And so I think it would just be good that we all know that.
You
I
mean
think-
someone within the whole.
One of us, one of our schools, the three.
But we haven't.
That's the point that I make.
But we made difficult decisions because we had to decide to stay within the caps or not.
Yeah.
But they're
And-
always different.
Right.
Are we cutting programs? I'm not saying we're not, but I mean, I think we just need to be clear about what that means if we're saying that.
That's why
What does
I
that mean?
like, you know, that could. Did you wanna make a comment?
Nah,
No,
I don't wanna belabor it,
right,
it's fine.
right between you. You had your hand up there a
No,
minute.
I'm knitting, I'm
Oh, you're
sewing.
knitting, I'm sorry, I can't see that far. I
I'm
just saw the
sewing.
hand.
Is it something turnip related?
Yeah, the Guilford Turnip Festival, they have me making ornaments, and I have to make 30 of these like a little elf before next weekend.
Serious multitasking right there.
I know, when I have the meetings, I'm right following along right here.
Okay, so are we good with that section then? Any other comments? Then we'll move on. Study committee deliberations. Recommendations of the exploratory committee resulted in the formation of 2 focused Act 46 study committees. One was to study the formation of a PK-12 that focused on the towns in Leland and Gray Middle High School Union, Brookline, Jamaica, Newfane, Townsend, and Wyndham. This union would be either a regional education district or a modified union school district. Wow. The other committee was to study the formation of a PK-12 unified school union district providing education in either grades PK 6 or 8 and tuitioning students in the upper grades. Wardsboro, Marlboro, and Dover. Voters' acceptance of the 2 unification plans would be the side-by-side unification option eligible for merger incentives. The study committee for Wardsboro, Marlboro, and Dover met during the summer and fall of 2016 to extend the work of the exploratory committee. The committee examined the possibility of a unified school district in terms of student learning opportunities, efficiency and effectivenesses, and financial implications. During the work of the committee, 2 additional towns showed interest in joining the study. Jamaica was interested in leaving the Leland Gray district and changing their structure to offer pre-K through 6 and pay tuition for students in 7 to 12. The Jamaica voters voted to remain in the Leland Gray Union, so Jamaica did not continue their interest. Stratton pays tuition for all students, so they decided to look at similar districts in their Act 46 study. Vernon, a member of the Wyndham Southwest Supervisors Union, is also interested in the study committee, and we leave that open because we'll add a date if they do decide to come, and if they don't, we will just take that sentence out. And then we'll just have to modify that up top. Go ahead, sir.
I think you want to leave in there for the state that Vernon considered coming in with us, and we would just add a sentence that would say, on such and such a date, they decided to withdraw. I think you want to leave that in there based on the letter we were talking about earlier.
Okay. Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm sorry, and I'm gonna acknowledge that I have not read through all of these yet, so if
That's
this
why
is
we're
somewhere
reading through 'em.
else, I'll pull it back, but I think, given the recent activity in the SU to the south of us, this may be the place to note the reach out, the significant number of reach outs to the other to all of the SUs around us multiple
I don't
times.
remember seeing that anywhere else. I don't think it is it, John?
What's that?
I don't
Okay.
remember seeing.
But I mean, that happened.
Right.
But
No.
isn't this
Multiple
section
times.
still the history of how we got to?
Right.
And
So
I
that
think
would
that's
make.
important.
But at some point, we're gonna wanna put that in there, I agree.
So he's gonna put that.
Yeah.
John will add that, and we can talk about it. We reached out to all the other, and we actually had some meetings
And
with
even
Wyndham
more
Southwest.
Just the bordering.
Right. And we also
Yeah.
went to Bells
Well,
Falls.
there's
and-
also like the individual towns doing individual reach outs with
Mhm.
Yeah.
other, and there was a lot of reach outs.
So if everybody could just send me a note about who
The
did
amount,
what, you can
yeah.
write it on a piece of paper and just give it to me or something, just so I can list those, because that'll be impressive.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to student learning opportunities. I got a highlight there. Was that intentional?
No, I did,
Oh,
because, just to make sure we get information on the condition of the buildings.
okay. And
That's
it,
highlight for me.
okay. An integral aspect of the study committee was to develop a shared understanding of the 3 elementary schools involved. Each principal made a presentation to the committee about the school and town. Presentations included demographics, enrollment, expenditures, programs, instructional focus, and achievement on state assessments. The committee also reviewed enrollment trends, per pupil spending, and school building value and condition. The chart and graph below shows some of the information considered by the committee. One aspect of the presentation of the principals that stood out for the committee was the 3 different instructional focuses of the school. Both the principals and the committee agreed that maintaining the ability of each school to have its own focus and culture would be critical to any successful union. The chart below describes particular focus of each school. So Wardsboro providing quality instruction in the core disciplines of literacy and math. Marlboro developing habits of mind and skills needed to be independent learners and critical thinkers using field research, independent learning, and integrated art recorded in graduation portfolios. In Dover, developing the IB with reliance on teacher selected materials, teacher design units, and teacher professional development. In terms of opportunity for unified arts, physical ed, technology, and library programs, the schools were similar. The major difference was the 2 schools had world language instruction and 1 did not. See attachment A for a chart showing the programs offered at the 3 schools. We didn't get that yet, did we?
No, the principals are still finishing up their work on that.
Okay, so there will be a chart that shows the course offerings in all 3 schools. Enrollment trends in the 3 schools show 3 different trajectories. Wardsboro has been a mirror of the state with continual declines and decreasing early grade enrollments. A couple of larger cohorts have led to a more stable enrollment over the next few years, but will not be maintained without an occasional larger than average cohort. Grade level enrollments in 2015-16 range from 5 to 9. Marlboro had an enrollment increase several years ago from a larger than normal kindergarten enrollment. The group has decreased somewhat and the school has not seen another large kindergarten class. The next few years should remain steady. As in Wardsboro, grade enrollments in 2015-16 range from 5 to 9. Dover has shown an increasing enrollment of the past few years with 4 years of larger than average kindergarten classes. Grade enrollments in the 2015-16 range from 9 to 16. And then there's that really fancy chart showing the actual and projected rates. And why don't we stop there? And is there any comments?
There's also another paragraph that I've written since then that just talks about some of the principal presentations and where to see the slides that they gave you on the blog. So it's not a big deal, but it's just in there.
More info.
Excuse me, just a little FYI, all those slides were dropped into Google Drive, and you do not need a password or a sign or anything to look at them. If you just click on the link, it pops right open for each one.
So any comments on that part so far?
Yeah, can I
Go ahead.
just go back? I had made some notes.
Go ahead, Raymond.
Just quick on I gotta find it. Page 3, we're talking about the committee reviewed enrollment trends per pupil spending, the school building value and condition. Did we review that?
No, that's coming up. That's what I made.
Okay,
So he still is working on that, so we will get to see that, but that will be something we will review.
okay, so this is anticipating that we will
Correct.
review that at some point.
Yeah.
Okay,
The timeline is pushing it so that,
you have to get this in there before you actually get the data.
yeah.
Got it.
And then we'll slip the charts in and make sure you see all the information. And change anything that needs to be changed.
Is everybody okay? Moving along. Chart below shows the percentage of PK through 6 students tested in the Vermont State Assessment System over the 2 years. 2 schools show results at or above Vermont as a whole, and 1 school showing substantial increased scores over the 2 years is at the state average in English, language arts, and somewhat below in math. Typically, an increase in poverty in a school tends to decrease performance on standardized assessment. The focused work in Wardsboro on core academic skills has led to results above the state average, even with a higher poverty rate than the state as a whole. In Marlboro, there's been a significant improvement in state assessment results in the prior year. Dover has shown consistently high state assessment results. Because of the small population of schools, teasing out the impact of poverty in assessment results is not appropriate for inclusion in this report. The schools, however, do address the impact of poverty in their instruction and support systems. And then there's a chart showing the test scores for the last 2 years, 2015 and 2016. Because of the investment in education as a related student opportunities, the committee reviewed a snapshot of the significant financial and staffing data associated with the 3 schools. The enrollment numbers in the schools have been a significant factor in per pupil education investment. The trend in per pupil spending, the factor directly related to homestead residential tax rate, has been somewhat above the Vermont state average. 3 years ago, Marlboro had a significant jump and has remained significantly higher than the state average. The chart and graph below show the snapshot of major spending factors and trends in the per pupil spending over 6 years. And then there's a chart just showing for each town the ADM, the spending.
The line about above the state average, I need to change because the state average includes high school, so it's not apples to apples. So I'm going to be working on that language there. Unless I can get a Vermont state average just for PK6.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
But isn't it still relevant? I mean, if we're taxpayers are gonna have to fund it for the 3 towns, we still wanna know what the overall cost is gonna be.
Correct.
And this is one way to gauge that. So maybe we need it in there, but maybe we
Both,
also
we
need it
need
broken
both.
out. Yeah.
I just want to make sure any statement there about comparison to state average is a real good statement, a real good out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
that's my own concern.
Yeah, no, I think your concern is right.
I'm 99% sure it's broken down that way. I know it's definitely broken down by small, medium, large.
Right, small, medium, large, and whether you belong to a union
Yeah.
or other things, but just the straight. See, for instance, Marlboro, how do you get a PK6 average for Marlboro when they're a PK8 district? I mean, there's a lot of there are a lot of difficulties in. So anyway, I just want to make sure we don't say something that we can't back up.
Okay, so,
That was my question.
you all set?
Yeah, I mean, he just answered my question, which is, have you taken into account
Yeah.
the junior high, and how do you pull that out?
And that's always been a difficult thing because, when you look at the weighted average daily membership chart that they base everything on, they don't really give you grades, they just give you the whole building because they take all the numbers and then they do their magic and come up with another number.
The numbers, though, on this thing I was looking at before is including the junior high, isn't it, in terms of?
Yeah, it says K6 or K8 per pupil spending.
It says K-12.
On page 6, the middle chart.
Not
Oh,
that page.
She doesn't have that to look at.
Never
Here.
mind, this
Yeah.
is K-12, so
Which-
it doesn't matter,
okay.
don't worry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are all kind of sitting there in the dark because you're not really looking at it the same
Trying to-
things we're looking at.
Trying to
That's the
memorize
problem.
it.
Did you get it? You got my email?
Oh, yeah.
So Carol Ann's got it, if you all want to look over her shoulder. Pass your tablet around.
Mine's too small.
Am I allowed to ask my question?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, my question is, do we want to say why Marlboro had a big jump 3 years ago with regard to high special needs students that moved into town?
I wouldn't wanna put it that way.
Relevant. Well, I didn't want
Relevant.
someone to think we were just, all of a sudden adding in all kinds of programs or something.
Spend like a drunken sailor.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's needed, you have to do it, I'm not suggesting otherwise.
Yeah, hang on one second. Is it appropriate to show special ed spending? But that comes out of the district level now, so.
No, it's
Well,
in
it
your
doesn't.
it's in
So,
your budget.
yeah.
It gets billed to you.
So how do you think that's appropriate to?
It's not like we all of a sudden decided to send everybody on a special, like didn't give everybody.
Yeah, give him a second, he's thinking.
Yeah.
Why don't we come, Carol, we're gonna make a
I
note of
just don't
that.
know how deep into the weeds you want to go on this,
I would just,
because it's not to defend Marlboro or anything.
well, my concern is that this is gonna be the case for all of us, when you're talking about towns with small populations and you say, 3 years ago, there was a big jump in special ed spending.
I know who moved into town 3 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a concern.
You can't
But you
do
can't
this
hide from that.
without the special ed in there, can you?
I think we could
you
make
do
a
the
more
numbers?
general statement about special ed affecting small schools, in very, sporadic kinds of highs and lows for all of us, that's one of the things you can't predict, right?
And we can't, there's no way of just taking the special ed monies out.
Of the calculation.
It's
Of the
really difficult
calculation.
because it gives you, there's a lot of money that comes into you because of special ed too. And so, it's more than just taking that number out of the equation, because then some of that money that came in.
Income and expense.
So I think there needs to be some kind of general statement.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we just, we've expressed to John our concern about that, and then let John work on that and come back to us. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, that's good. That's the helpful kind of feedback for moving forward.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's just a comment. I mean,
I'm ready. Go ahead.
she's hit on one of the core issues of what this activity is all about. That when you have 3 kids move into a school district of 58 kids, that really impacts the cost. When you have move into a district of 300 kids, it's less of an impact.
Mhm.
So
So that
that
feeds
is
right
actually
into
one of
what
the
state's
pluses.
trying to do.
Yeah, that's one of the pluses that you can see with this. I'm not
But
saying it's right or wrong, it's just one of the
Didn't
pluses.
we, at the WCSU level, address some of that already in the last couple of years?
Well,
by-
the state addressed it by making everything go to the central office, but then they just kind of bill it back anyway, so.
I think you're billed on a use basis here.
I see.
And that was because, you can bill 2 different ways, and we voted at the central office to bill as a per use, because some people, some schools were doing
I
something.
know that Marlboro, I'm only recently back on the board, but I know that it's come up a number of times to try to have it be shared amongst the entire SU and not per school.
And that
it
study kind of,
hasn't
and
happened.
those conversations kind of took
They took a back seat when Act
until,
46 showed up.
until we get through here.
Right.
That's
Carol.
what I was gonna say.
Okay. So, are we okay to move on? Page 7. Who was the guy who used to do that read? He had a better voice than me.
Rich,
Yes.
just for general, I just wanna make a general comment, that we are looking at per pupil spending. The point is, we're looking at differences in per pupil spending. We want more similar per pupil spending, and that's the case across the whole state, without regard to what size you are. So, just wanna make that general comment.
Okay, so top of page 7, building value for discussion of particular interest to the committee was the input from principals and WCSU central office about the impact of unification on student learning opportunities. Complete this section after committee discussion. More details of the committee's understanding of student learning opportunities is found in attachment B.
Which is not attached.
No, I didn't realize these buildings were so valuable.
And we're getting some other information on the buildings, but,
This is,
and land. That was the insurance value.
Insured value.
Is it in?
Okay, Randy.
So, well, that was my question. Was it based on replacement value?
Yeah.
Insurance value?
Yeah.
And
We'll
we're
have
also
more
gonna talk about
information.
buildings in another section too, right? So I'll
Yes.
save
Well,
some of my
yeah,
comments.
that's right.
2 more pages away.
Yeah.
Okay, so, folks, we need to spend a few minutes here because John needs some input to complete this section after committee discussion. This is the committee we need to discuss. And that's why I set aside so much time tonight to discuss this. So, impact of unification on student learning opportunities. I think John covered one inequity that we have right now is 2 schools have foreign language and 1 doesn't. And what else would unification do to have increased student learning or student opportunities?
Now, I sent you the impact on student learning piece.
Yep, you wanna go over that now?
Well, we can, or we can do it later, but that's where whenever you have that discussion, that's in the report where it will go. I'm fine either way, I don't care which way you do it.
What do you folks all think? Somebody tell me, do you wanna get through the rest of this and do that as a separate?
Well, it's sort of the center of the whole thing,
Yeah,
so.
that's why I
It
know-
seems to me
yeah.
that we ought to discuss it.
Well, did we wanna do it though as
We're fresher now than we
Yeah,
will be at the end
let's-
of the next
do it
18
now.
pages.
okay, so then let's do this. There was an October 4th, 2016, Act 46 Study Committee, Governance Unification Impact on Student Learning. It was 3 pages.
So basically, this is a memo from me to you about what I've learned. And that would probably
wanna see
be
this?
the attachment. But your decisions about it need to be in the discussion. I mean, in the report.
So during the last several weeks, I visited with WCSU school principals, curriculum director, business manager, and superintendent about the implication of a governance change on student learning. Their comments, as well as my own observations and analysis, constitute my comments below. And everybody, those of you in the audience that don't know, Mr. Everett had been a teacher, a superintendent, a principal, and has worked with other school districts on these kind of actions before, so he definitely has an education background. While there are many specific ideas mentioned, the most overarching takeaway I had was that there exists simultaneously a level of cooperation and collaboration on many functions now led through the WCSU central office and separate school cultures with a focus on particular initiatives, and with each town as a center of importance. Since the students go their separate ways for secondary school beyond either grade 6 or 8, there's no common target after the town school experience. Currently, the 3 elementary schools each have a particular focus. We covered them earlier, providing quality instruction in core, developing habits of the mind and skills in Marlboro, and Dover developed the IB program. A unified governance system would provide the structure or platform for collaborative and cooperative actions that would add strength, vitality, and sustainability to the existing school programs. It is not that most of these actions require a unified governance system. It is just that the current governance system presents many barriers that require substantial efforts to overcome, i.e., each district acts with its own interests at the forefront, which leads to difficult to sustain programs and duplication of efforts. Separate teacher and principal hiring, contracts, accountability, and evaluation make it difficult or impossible to move resources where they are needed for a particular effort or assignment. Separate accounting systems lock resources into smaller and separated units, even when the needs shift from month to month and year to year. These and other barriers require a cumbersome process to respond to situations and needs. Resources are bounded by separate budgets and do not allow for the kind of agility in the system that will provide increased and faster response to ever-changing dynamics.
Should we stop there?
You wanna
and
stop
just,
there?
Discuss
Go
this
ahead.
section?
Page 1 is done, so.
Yeah, I guess my feeling reading it over is I would want to hear specifics, especially in strength, vitality, sustainability to the existing school programs. It feels as if that could include anything, and I want to know what specifically we're working on here to make it reasonable to consolidate to make that better. Maybe I'm off the wall here, but it just
That's
seems
coming
very
next.
general.
I think there's more stuff next.
Yeah, do we want?
Well, yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
I've read it.
Okay. So you want more?
I want real
Details.
specifics.
Well, let's go through because,
Okay.
the next paragraph, it says, I suggest the following unifications to enhance and sustain learning opportunities, so. So another aspect of the existing governance system to be acknowledged is the quantity of resources required to maintain the boundaries of duplication of administrative resources for separate accounting system, separate policy development and enforcement, separate governance meetings, and separate state and federal reporting means that there is reduced administrative time for leadership and improvement in academic and co-curricular programming, and for an increase in the quality and efficiency of operations. A unified governance system would allow the chief educational leader and staff to spend increased time and focus on improvement and innovation in student learning opportunities. They would have additional time to focus on some of the ideas listed in the next section. Acknowledging this missed opportunity is significant as the committee examines the benefits of students in a unified governance system. The conversations I had suggest the following possibilities to enhance and sustain learning for students. Number 1, develop and implement a system for evaluating the results of K-6 or K-8 instruction by working with families and receiving schools to understand the level of success of town school graduates. 2, respect the culture and expertise of each school while recognizing the overall goal of providing a quality education to all children. Although transportation will become an issue, allowing elementary students school choice would allow families to select the school programs best suited for the needs of their children. Share knowledge and curriculum across the schools to benefit students by increasing the expertise of teachers. This is already achieved partially through the WCSU grade level assessment meeting and other SU-wide investments in professional learning. The reservation with this benefit is the need to avoid overwhelming teachers who are already involved in curriculum and instructional initiatives. Subsection A, share resources among teachers and schools. For example, develop shared teaching units and kits of materials for the next generation science standards with processes to calibrate instruction and assessment and debriefing sessions to improve the units for the following year. Develop a common and clear understanding of the expectations for mastery of the Common Core standards, timing, instruction, assessment, and remediation. Improve the standard-based report card with all teachers trained in the meaning and assessment of each standard. Monitoring student progress would have comparable information to identify the needs for professional development. Take advantage of flexibility of resources assignments in a unified system, allowing the deployment of teachers and resources to meet student needs and changes in enrollment. One possibility would be a common teacher substitute system that would have a greater chance of recruiting and retaining a quality cadre of substitute teachers. Focus leadership on educational goals and avoid the substantial duplication of efforts required in existing separate governance structures. For example, a unified teacher contract would allow administrators to develop a standard set of procedures, thus spending less time applying different rules in different schools. Meeting the challenge of developing and strengthening relationships among administrators, citizens, and board members in a new governance structure. Increase coordination and efficiencies. Examples include building maintenance and improvement, payroll and bookkeeping, paperwork related to food service operations, and professional development focused on new teachers. From what I have seen and heard about the current educational environment in your 3 towns, I suggest you review the statement below as a conclusion about the impact of governance changes on student learning. The major intent of Act 46 is to move the state towards sustainable models of education governance. The current model of governance for Wardsboro, Marlboro, and Dover may be adequate for the present, but with the changing demographics, the increasing focus on students meeting the educational quality standards, and satisfying the citizens' determination of value for cost, it is not well suited to meet these demands in the future. A more unified governance model, eliminating the barriers of separate governance structure, is more likely to be in a position to build on the strengths and connections of the present in order to meet challenges in a way that provides increasing opportunities for student learning. So what do you guys want to do with that?
As a parent, I didn't actually hear any added benefits for learning in that. In any of
I
that.
saw a lot, but I mean, if you can have more time for professional
Yeah.
development for your staff, in Dover we doubled our amount of professional development, and our test scores started increasing, and that was one part of it. So that it helps increase student learning opportunities when you have better trained staff. You know, the ability to share resources among students if something's working. The example I've used is Wardsboro went a totally different route than we did in Dover for bringing their test scores up. You know, they had different issues that we had. So instead of us, if we want to run into those issues, instead of us having to reinvent the wheel, we can use what Wardsboro already did. And those are the kind of things they're talking about.
But again, they're pretty much, they're unifying school educational philosophies in order to do so, as opposed to sharing resources. You know, it's about test scores and consolidation of teacher training. So I don't actually see how that would allow schools to have their individual philosophical educational flavor within that.
Okay.
I think she's onto something there, Rich, and I think if you look at Dover, you're gonna take that to Dover, and you're gonna get a lot of questions about the IB program and what happens with that. So I think that really does need to be explored a little bit more. And you know, you guys have some great programs here, and so does Dover, and so does Wardsboro. So everybody's gonna wanna be able to keep their own, at least for a little while. That's what we talked about the last meeting, about keeping the culture at each school. I have a couple more things, can I go?
Oh, good. No, keep going.
Respect the culture and
Hang on, Caroline, we'll get to you when you raise your hand.
Well, she's backing me up.
No. Well, you put your hands down because it's Randy's turn and then.
And I read some other things in here as a taxpayer that make me say, we ought to be able to save some money by doing some of this stuff. You're shaking your head, but so why or why not? As a taxpayer and as someone who may have to vote on this down the road, if I'm consolidating financing, accounting systems, policy development, governance meetings, reporting, substitute teachers, and standardizing all that stuff, that should save me some money, right? And if it doesn't, I want to know why, and if it does, I want to see those numbers as a voter and a taxpayer.
So the reason I'm
Okay, Laura, no. Are you all set, Randy?
I am.
Okay, Caroline.
Oh, I just wanted to point out that number 2 says, respect the culture and expertise of each school. Just point that out, that it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sir.
Just reiterating here, I think one of the greatest points of anxiety for people in communities who will be voting on this is over the loss of local control. So having some specific points of emphasis about how the individual culture of the schools can be maintained is important, just to get it passed, if that's one of the goals. And then the other thing is, again, that there should be specifics that allow savings of money by all 3 towns, and so.
I'm sorry, say that again.
There should be specific items in it, which there are, which illustrate potential savings of money by all 3 towns, and so I think that's also an important thing to stress, or important to have. It's important to make that clear for readers.
Yeah, I think there is some specific models with implementing the groups together further in the first document we were going over. So there is some more about that, and then the other stuff, can you work on that?
The other stuff being the specifics, or the
Yeah.
taxpayer save
No.
money, or
Well,
local control?
how do we keep that? Yeah, the cultural
Yeah,
differences.
I think, as you were talking, I think a whole section in the report deliberation ought to be focused on that. I think that's important enough, that we ought to have a whole section on that.
Okay. So you're gonna make a note on that? and-
Yeah, I did.
have it there.
Hang on a second, I got Laura and then you.
So with regard to the saving money, I'm not gonna go into a big thing, but as I pointed out before, we measure on the per pupil spending, okay? And our policies at the statewide level are trying to get us all to spend equally, regardless as to what size we are. So yes, we may be able to make some choices to save some money here. We also may find that the savings are able to be reinvested to purchase additional opportunities for our students without making much of a difference in our tax rates, which is how the education financing system actually works. It's not cheaper in larger schools, you're able to offer more opportunity in larger schools. So.
Yes, Caroline.
Bill spoke with us at our school board meeting last week or whenever it was, and he talked about the increasing need of students coming to school who have quite a broad range of emotional needs, and that is going to increase within the entire SU. And I'm thinking that any type of special counseling, et cetera, that's something that's, you know, an expense, an increased expense down the road that we can all share in those resources.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So what we're doing is, just so you all know, when you make a comment, John's taking notes of it so that he can work on adding that into those sections, so. And then, you know, this is a rough draft, and again, and I'll get to you in one sec. If you get a chance, you know, I know I'm reading and I hate when I go to a class and somebody reads out loud something I could read, but some of you don't have it. So that's why I want to do it. But if you go and look at it afterwards and you see something else that comes to your mind, you know, that you say, oh my gosh, I should have said this, send me an email and then I'll compile them all and I'll get them to John to, you know, to see if it's something we can include. And then, you know, we'll have another draft to look at again in 2 weeks when we meet, okay?
It's me, I guess.
Yes.
I've been really struggling with this for
Yeah.
3 weeks, and I'm having a really hard time with it, feeling convinced that we're gaining anything here. I don't get it. I see that there are various things that could be really beneficial and helpful, especially the bookkeeping and the paperwork and the meal program and a lot of things like that, which that's not enough for me to give up local control, community involvement in the school. I think there are other ways of doing that without doing a consolidation.
So what are other ways?
I'm not sure. I'm not on the school board, so I
No,
don't.
well,
oh.
you said I'm sure there's
Yeah.
other, I didn't know if you had other ways or.
A lot of it is being done already down in this area, more than in other parts of the state, I think. And building the strength, on the strength of what we already have going.
And, you know, I totally agree with you because, you know, I've said before in this committee that, you know, when Rainey's wife and I went and testified before the Senate and we explained, you know, this idea about sharing teachers that we do in Wyndham Central, you know, the Senate looked at us like we had three heads and, you know, they were trying to get out of the room because they thought we were gonna attack or something. But I do hear in other supervisory unions, there was one principal that's telling me he couldn't hire a phys ed teacher because he only needed 1 day a week. So we solved that situation here. So I do agree that we've done a lot of that, but the state's, you know, the state is by us looking, wants us to look at this and see if there's other things we can do to make it even cleaner and easier and more efficient. So I think that's why we're going through this process.
Yeah, I know we have to
And-
go through the process.
No, and then just the one other thing too is I don't think though that you're that far off. I think we've done a lot of this and we've been a very good district and a very good supervisory union for years. I don't disagree, but none of us can predict what the future is. And one of the things that happened when we went, we had the ability to go talk to the Secretary of Education and the head of the school boards and the Superintendent's Association, and we had Dr. John with us, and we had several members of the super board at Wyndham Central. We all went to Montpelier, and we sat there, and you know, we got to talk about what is Act 46 all about. And I said to them, I said, you guys, you know, you're now the benevolent dictator of education right here, you know. What would you suggest? What should we do as Wyndham Central? And I remember the Secretary of Education said, you know, look at your student enrollment over the last 10 years and project out for the next 10 to 20 years and project what your budgets are doing, how much, and where will you be in 5, 10, and, you know, 15 years out, 20 years out. And that's the other thing we got to keep in mind with this too is, you know, right now things may be working really well, but are they going to work in 2 or 3 or 4 years, or are they going to work really well when our enrollment drops in half of what we got now, which is half of what we had 5 years ago, and then where are we all going to be? And we also need to think about the future. I said you next, and then we'll get over to you, Anita. Go ahead.
Okay. So I should introduce myself. I'm Lauren Poster, and I'm on the school board here in Marlboro. And I just want to acknowledge that you guys have done a tremendous amount of work here, and I hear that, and I'm really impressed with what I'm hearing. But I also have to reiterate what I'm hearing from other people here tonight and add to it is I appreciate that culture of the 3 separate schools is put so high up as being important to maintain. And it makes me very skeptical that if we are honestly going to try to do that for ourselves and for our 3 towns, that there are these benefits that you talk about with sharing teacher development, for instance. Because if Wardsboro and Dover are focused strongly and rightly so for your towns on development that is going to increase test scores, well, historically Marlboro is focused development on a lot of other things and has downplayed test scores as an important way of evaluating a student's skills and growth. So that development for all three may not really in the end be beneficial. So, you know, we're not the educators, we're the school board members, and we count on our educators to bring their expertise to our students in our buildings. What we're trying to do is, it feels to me like what you're trying to do with this document is to paint with a sunny brush something that's been put on us, because you're absolutely right, Rich, for many, many years that WCSU has already been working and could work even further if we think that sharing lunch programs would be helpful. We could do that through the WCSU. We don't need Act 46 to do that. If having a single, you know, bookkeeping system would work, we can do that without Act 46. And it sounds like you're trying to appease this benevolent dictator by saying that we're going to keep our separate cultures and we're going to have all these benefits out of merging. And I'm with Lucy. I don't hear the details in there of where that is. It's like, where's the meat? I'm not hearing the meat.
You gotta need a next and then Joe.
Right,
No,
I just wanted to just say that, right on page 1, pretty much, the case has to be made for everybody wins, nobody loses, and everything that comes after page 1 pretty much has to sustain that, or the people who are gonna vote on this are gonna read past page 1, and they're gonna be voting with a little bit of blindness. So I think if the committee is tasked with doing something, they can't not do nothing, or they can, that is an option, they can in the end vote and say, no, you know, we think what you just said is true, but the idea that the locals people of each town are gonna be excluded from input, I think is what has to be clarified, because you're not gonna be run by a school board that comes from Mars. You're gonna be run by a school board made of you. And if you feel strongly about what your committee, what your culture and what your school and what your neighbors want in their school system, run for school board or be on school board or come to the meeting. So I think your conversations are creating a little bit of the impression that you're going to be governed from outside the world, and you're not. You're still going to be governing amidst and among your own towns, with your own people.
I just wanted to bring up something we talked about in the first few meetings and was really emphasized, and that was, this is a framework. We don't want to get very specific, because the three schools are different. They have their own cultures. And so we just wanted to create a framework without getting very specific, but we want it to be doable, so we have to talk about also what is specific to each school. So I just wanted to be clear.
So also, Lauren, you haven't been to all the
I haven't been
meetings.
to any of your meetings.
So, but just one of the other things too is because we've talked about and we've had discussion about, well, can we specifically say that, you know, Marlboro's school building will always be gray and it'll never change color, and purple, whatever it is. I'm colorblind almost.
That was a big fight.
So anyways, but you know, one of the things that comes up too is there's gonna be a new group that's gonna, because this isn't the Wardsboro, it's not gonna be Wardsboro, Dover, and Marlboro school boards getting together, meeting like we do at Wyndham Central. It's gonna be a new entity, it's gonna be whatever it's named, you know, we've called it the elementary schools for now. That's gonna be the governing, the body, and you can't be so specific that you tie their hands so that they can't do anything. They can't, you know, if you were to say to them, you can never close any school ever, and all of a sudden, you know, out of all three schools, we got 30 students, it doesn't make sense to run 3 buildings maybe. But that's not our decision, that's a decision of a further along group.
The most
So-
positive thing I heard from all this is students being able to go from school to school, which in theory sounds like a really great idea to me, but that's gonna add costs. And the likelihood of really young kids doing that is probably not that great. But I just don't want you to get carried away with the general how great this is gonna be unless you really honestly believe that it's gonna be great.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Okay, no, I just,
No, that's all right.
I actually, I talked to Caroline and then we'll go to you two guys.
I just wanted to say too, though, that I think there is an opportunity for student expansion of opportunities if we take the time to learn more about the IB program that Dover has. Maybe Marlboro wants to incorporate some of that. We don't really know anything about it. So I don't think we should, as Marlboro residents, shut it down. Likewise, I don't think Wardsboro or Dover should shut down some of the great stuff we do here. I think we're still at a place where we can learn from one another, and there can be an enhancement of opportunities by sharing the best parts of those three different cultures.
Sir?
I would like to suggest, if we can, ask the three wonderful administrations that we have in place already to work together and figure out a realistic way to share existing resources and present that now. Because I don't think anybody here has a problem with the education offered at their schools. And the three administrations, with their input, could say, yes, on this day we would share this resource, and so on and so forth.
And it doesn't take
And that-
consolidation
Hang on,
to
folks.
do that.
Let me,
Sorry, I went too fast.
no, I think, I know John met with all the administrators after we met in the Wardsboro meeting, and I think he kind of,
Well, we weren't meeting to talk about action right now. We met to talk about what could happen in a unified governance system. So almost all the ideas in here came from them. They're not, very few are my ideas. So it's things they're probably ready to do, if they can. Part of it, it's the awkwardness of the governance structure allowing them to do some things. So that's part of what's going on. But
no, hang on.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it is possible to maintain individuality. I'm really glad that we all agree on that within the schools. But I do think we can gain from a larger resources with the teachers. I served on a committee to hire a new teacher for our 5th, 6th grade, and only had 3 applicants in Wardsboro. And one of them was dismissed immediately, so it came down to just two applicants. And the idea of having a large district where teachers apply, where those teachers could be redistributed to the place where they would do the most good. So it may be possible to have teachers who are plugged into the school that best meets those students' needs at that school. So you have a larger group to choose from. I think that is a resource that could work.
I'm going Lauren and Cindy.
I think when we're talking, if we continue to talk about wanting to maintain separate cultures, I think we should talk about that. So the way to talk about that in terms of opportunity is that kids then have a choice. And so what is the benefit of having those two, like being clear, like here's how they are different and yet equal in terms of both providing and maybe having a little bit better of a, do you know what I'm saying?
can you talk a little more about it, Dawn?
So.
As far as the report, I'm so focused on trying to capture your thinking.
So as opposed to simply, and maybe it says this already, John, but as opposed to saying, it's important to us to maintain the cultures, turn that into, an opportunity for all of the kids, or phrased in a way that it's an opportunity for kids, so that we want to give the kids in all 3 towns an opportunity to choose between this type of situation and this type of situation and this type of situation. And we think that each one of these types of situations have the following benefits. I mean, we could actually, that could be, if maintaining cultures is incredibly important, which it has been thus far pretty consistently, let's turn that into even more clearly what is great about each, what are the opportunities, and each kid would then have additional options for. So every kid in Dover would then, have the option to choose a program, at Marlboro or at Wardsboro.
I got it, thanks.
Okay, that's enough.
I got it.
That was
I like the way you did that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna feed off of, basically what Laura was saying, what Dwight was saying, like, this, I think, some of the big things coming at this are having larger teacher pools, to, larger, we then become an attractive place where we pay our teachers well. We offer them great benefits, and people want to apply to work in our district. Like, that's a huge thing. I mean, we got really lucky when we were hiring for our first and second grade teacher. We had a lot of wonderful applicants, but we also pay less than the rest of the SU. I mean, I want to be able to pay our teachers better. And if that means that we can do that as a shared resource, I think that's a huge, because they deserve it. So.
Randy, and then Batista. No, Randy, and then.
Sorry. I got a couple of things, so this might take a minute. One, it's great having you guys here and throwing darts at us, because we need that. Because we can't work in a vacuum. And we have multiple charges that we have to do with this group. The first is to prepare a document that can get approval by the state, so we can then send it to you guys for a vote. And that's what we're trying to get through now.
Yeah,
But the more we can do to get your concerns addressed in this document, the better off we are when it goes to a vote. And frankly, I have no clue what's going to happen when it goes to the voters. And my thing keeps coming back to, if we do the best job we can do with this, it might protect us all, the three towns, and keep more local control than if we go our separate ways and have the state come down in 3 or 4 years and say, Marlboro, you're going with Halifax because we think that's the best fit for you. Or Dover, you're going with Newfane and Newbrook because we think that's the best fit for you.
Yeah.
At least if we go through this exercise and we come through with something that isn't perfect, because it ain't gonna be, but at least might be palatable, then we can have that discussion about where are we gonna be in 5 years, and are we better together or are we better apart? But we're obviously not at that point yet, and we all know that. So if you guys can keep coming to meetings and sharpen your knives a little bit more.
You can come to our
Do it.
alternative structure meetings too. That's why I don't come to this one.
Yeah, and and we'll get right back. Just I wrote myself a note up here talking about this, and this is really the very important thing to have you guys here too, in telling us this stuff, because that's part of the community involvement that other groups haven't had. They've only, the groups or the boards have met in kind of seclusion, and then nobody else has really been there, nobody else knows what's going on. So it is really important that you guys are here, and it's great, and I'm hoping when we go to Dover and Wardsboro next time too, we get more local people, coming out, and that's why we chose to go to each individual town to move forward with this.
I just wanted to reiterate that I think for the framework to be successful, it has the right elements in it, but it needs a little stronger emphasis on whatever the sales pitch is, or the value proposition, whatever you want to call it. And certainly creating efficiencies should have benefits for each individual school district, and I mean, that's something you can flesh out. But also, I think another thing which we all have in common, and we might lose it if the state came down and made us combine with different towns, is we have 3 contiguous towns that all have high school choice. And I think in Marlboro, a number of us really find value in preserving that, because it's been beneficial to a number of families for several decades. And that's another point you could emphasize, that we have control of that if the 3 towns can work together. And the other thing I wanted to say is, you are, in Marlboro and the other towns, going against a long tradition, because I think roughly since the 1770s, for like 240 years in Marlboro, we've had local people voting on their taxes and on their schools. And in fact, Marlboro had many school districts, which Dover and Wardsboro probably did as well, separate districts for each school. So you can read the school records and see people arguing about, every parent has to deliver a half a quart of firewood by September 1st, or we're gonna hire the teacher part-time because we're too cheap to hire him full-time. They didn't say it that way. So local control is a big deal, and overcoming resistance of a lot of us to, what is in it for us to give up local control, that's a key thing. So I think if there are genuine efficiencies, that's important. If we have more stability in terms of the tax rate, that is important. And being able to maintain high school choice, I think, for a voter like me is important, so.
And you're
You know-
aware that this legislature's come out and any school that has choice cannot be forced to give it up in any, so.
Right.
The
But
only
if
way
we're
you
three
can-
of us together and we're all physically contiguous and we all, I mean, obviously you have K through 8 and K through 6, and that's a difference, but, you know, it's three high school choice towns that would be united, and there's no reason to, I mean, we're some of the only towns left in this part of Vermont who do have school choice, except Stratton, that's like 100% school choice. But, so I think that could be an important part of the sales pitch or value proposition if you wanna have success at town meeting.
Thank you.
Anita's taking that note.
And then Laura.
Yeah, I just, I think it's very important because it's a very contentious issue. First of all, there are a lot of schools in southern Vermont that have school choice. And the law as it stands is very clear that schools cannot be made, districts cannot be made to give up their choice. So I just wanna be very clear about that. I understand your concern, but that is not a current situation that we have to like protect against. And I need to be clear because it's something people are very concerned about.
But it's something that unites the three towns.
Yes,
So
absolutely,
it might
absolutely.
Let me,
appeal to the
and
voters
just
in
because
the
we're
town.
kinda on a schedule, I mean, that's been pretty much, I know you haven't been to every meeting, but we've really hammered that home, that that's the reason the three of us are together, and we're not with the Leland and Gray group, because we wanted to
Right,
maintain school
right.
choice. And the other group doesn't have the school choice, and that's why they're a separate group. So on this, remember too, this 3-page document and the 21-page document are available on the website there that Anita set up. And if you know, and there's a way to sign up, so you get all that stuff too, so make sure you do that. So on the 3-page document, the governance unification impact on student learning, I know that Mr. Everett has written like about 6 pages in his notebook while we've been discussing this. Is there anything else on this document, or are we okay with this? Remember, this is not a final document, and when Mr. Everett adds his 6 pages so that this is all in there, you know, then we'll look at it again. It's not gonna be final till sometime in November, December, when we move it forward to the state. Yes, ma'am.
I would just add that some of those seem like financial benefits, but not educational benefits.
Well, part of our charge is also,
Right, I know, but should they be under educational benefits? Is
Break
that-
it out?
Yeah.
And that actually will happen in the report, so there'll be
It
a
just-
whole page
yeah.
of the financial implications and efficiencies and effectiveness and the student
And the
opportunities.
student opportunities, because combining bookkeeper, that doesn't
Yeah.
seem like an
Yeah.
educational
but
opportunity.
again, it is if you think about, so
It's
then
page 8.
instead of paying for 3 bookkeepers, now you can maybe pay for 1 bookkeeper and 2 teachers.
Right,
that-
so maybe that could be, should be translated.
Yeah,
so
it's
that
broken out on
it's
page
made
8.
clear how that,
Well, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, so, and it's,
That's
we're
very-
bouncing around a little bit, but, got
The
it.
report will clearly be broken out that way. My letter to the board is mixed up with stuff that I was gonna say too, but.
We okay to move on, guys? Yeah, I'm not bored, are we?
No, your committee, sorry.
So,
Was that an insult?
no,
Okay.
I
Just checking.
we got a board meeting on Monday night. Okay, so, did we cover page 7? I can't even remember.
You're on the top of page 7, efficiency and effectiveness.
Okay. Who doesn't have a copy of this? Who isn't looking at over somebody's shoulder?
Most of us.
Most of you don't have a
Was
copy,
this the
or?
22-page one?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we didn't have a copy of that.
Okay, so efficiency and
So-
effectiveness, basically through the efforts of WCSU, Dover, Marlboro, Wardsburg, have worked increasingly over the past several years to consolidate management and educational services, otherwise bring about effective and efficient operating procedures and practices. Both formal and informal agreements, management systems, and operating procedures have evolved between and among these member districts, laying a foundation for the creation of a unified system. The foundational work includes progress on development of a unified curriculum, unified special education delivery system, special ed and paraprofessionals under one WCSU contract, and coordination of transportation contracts. The 12 entities in WCSU create substantial duplication of efforts, including accounting systems, audit, state and federal reports, transportation contracts, food service, grant applications and tracking, and a special difficulty explaining the system to the federal E-rate program to obtain that technology grant. Reducing the number of entities to 2 unified school districts plus a supervisory union offers the possibility of reducing redundancy, thus opening time for efforts that bring savings and efficiency. For example, the prior change in WCSU to a unified special ed system brought efficiencies and flexibilities to the districts that improved services to children with special needs and reduced spending. The removal of duplication in different accounting processes frees up the staff and administration time to move forward on new ways to increase efficiencies, cooperative buying, professional development, substitute teacher systems, seamless information technology, devices, systems and support, and building repair, maintenance, and improvement. As further efficiencies take hold, the doors open to other efficiencies. Go ahead, sir.
Page 7,
Yes.
progress on development of a unified curriculum. I think we just spent quite a bit of time on talking about the potential hazards of that.
That's what I was gonna bring up too.
No, this is what Wyndham Central has done. He's not talking about what this group would do. He's just saying that there's been some efficiency and effectiveness through Wyndham Central
Well,
developing
so-
a unified curriculum.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, perhaps just because we're about, it's
And
taking
one-
time to go through it,
Yeah.
and forgetting that it's historical, and
And
potentially
that way.
other
one
people
thing
would
is,
forget that.
curriculum is, a lot of people take curriculum to mean, and I should probably clarify this in here, curriculum to mean how you teach kids.
Mhm.
But curriculum really is the end result. What do you try- what do you want for the kids at the end of the day?
Okay,
So, but I should probably clarify that a little bit.
thank you.
Perfect. Laura?
So this is historical.
Yes, he's talking
This
about
Yes, it's a
what's.
little confusing.
So I
because
think
they
actually it
weren't-
would be good to say the word historical,
Okay.
or history of.
This is kind of for the AOE and the
Right.
state board, right?
What's
To
been
sort
done.
of,
It's not that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Because
as a
it
result.
says
This is-
through the efforts, they have worked increasingly over the past several years.
So I'll add
Can I
historically
just
somewhere.
clarify, I mean, we were talking about this, I think we got confused because we stopped looking at this document and went to a
Yeah.
different document.
Right,
We
right.
knew
Yeah.
when we were going through the first 6 pages that this was a historical document, going through what has happened.
Okay.
We all set to move forward?
Okay,
Cool.
okay.
Right, yeah, it was just confusing because we went to different
Yeah.
documents.
Financial implications, since I see everybody looking at something now, the first paragraph, another aspect of the work was look at financial implications of moving from separate entities to a unified school district. We looked at equalized per pupil costs, resulting, committee study equalized pupil costs, resulting homestead tax rates, student-teacher ratios, assets, and reserves. The committee also analyzed the impact if the state small schools grant and the protection for rapidly declining enrollment were not in place. The committee reviewed a snapshot of the significant financial and staffing data associated with the 3 schools. The enrollment numbers in the schools have been a significant factor in per pupil educational investment. The trend in per pupil spending, the factor directly related to homestead residential tax rate, has been somewhat above the Vermont state average. 3 years ago, Marlboro had a significant jump and is renamed significantly higher. The chart and graph below is a snapshot. We kind of covered that before.
This is a duplication, I've got
Yeah.
to see this.
Yeah, I made a
doesn't
note
sound
on
right.
that.
This doesn't sound right.
So we need to skip all this, right?
Yes, I think this
Because it
is
seemed
all
like you
here.
duplicated pages
Yeah,
5 and 6
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I think we gotta run to page 11, don't we?
Yeah.
Well,
No, page 10.
10
I'm gonna
has,
make my-
10 has a new
Page
chart.
10.
yeah,
Okay, that's where we want to go to.
So on the top of page 10 is a chart of possible combinations
Okay, here we go.
and different tax rates for each town.
So did we just jump back, or was that paragraph duplicated?
No, I
That
think
was
you
duplicated.
Okay,
duplicated.
thanks, sir. Anyway, I'll go through it. Get it.
Okay,
So,
so now it says the study committee came to the following conclusions. Yes, Laura, what conclusion did you come to?
I've come to no conclusion. The chart that is there needs a whole bunch of factors identified as to what the basis for that is, what the time frame for that is, where the information is coming from.
Which, this one on
Uh,
page 10?
Yeah.
Yes.
The possible combination chart?
Yep, what the tax rates are. So what is that, what is the information that feeds into that chart? So we just need that all noted.
Sure.
Yeah, we need a lot of things when it comes to financial that we haven't touched on yet.
Right.
Do we wanna get into that, Rich? Cause I have
Yeah.
comments on that.
Because that'll be the first question
Well,
people are looking at,
yeah.
based on what and when.
May I?
Mm.
Okay.
Well, it's current PK through 12, so that's right now. And then this is right now if there was, all 4 towns were unified, if 3 towns were, if 2 towns were, if 2 towns were, and 2 towns were. Correct?
Yeah, it's that document that you,
We got from, yeah.
Yeah, which I had some issues with.
we could actually work on the document, get it the way you want it, and just insert that right in there instead of making it an attachment.
So on the top of page 10, there's a chart, and back when we were doing our study group, the bigger study group, the state had some modeling. What they basically did is they took your current rate, they had a set standard across the board increase of, I think, a 2 point something %, whatever school budget had been increasing in the last few years, and they took out your small school grant, and they took away your hold harmless. And then they said, this is what your tax rate would be if you don't do anything. And then they said, here's what your tax rate would be, taking out your hold harmless, taking out your small school grant, but getting the 8, 6, 4, and 2 merger support grants. And obviously that number was lower because obviously you're getting 8 cents buy down from the state. So there was a lot of discussion on that. A lot of people didn't like the graph. I was somewhat okay with it because we don't know what a new budget's gonna look like for a new school district because we're not here to set a budget. We're here, if we agree with this, then a new board comes on board to oversee this group, and they're the ones that determine the budget. And the important thing to remember too is that it's now a unified tax rate too. So there is no Dover tax rate and Wardsboro tax rate and Marlboro tax rate. There's this new group's tax rate, and that is where you get the 8 cents off. So people need to understand that you can't just say, oh wow, if I vote for this, my tax rate's gonna be 8 cents lower next year. Everybody good with that? And then we could try to stress that, maybe write that out more specifically so as a sub-note so people can understand that.
I think it's important, but did you were gonna?
Elaborate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think we can take a lot of the information on the analysis and just put it right in the
Yeah.
report.
So like what year, I mean, like
Yeah.
this was voted on by the voters at blah, blah, blah. I mean,
Yeah,
just
it's right
even
there.
if you,
It's called
Rich,
current.
no. Because you understand this, and a lot of people in this room understand this, but a lot of the people that are gonna vote will not understand this. And so, these are questions that we should make it super easy for people to understand, where did this come
So
from?
is it not a chart, it's more of an explanation?
No, I mean, the chart's fine,
chart.
it's just
You
identifying.
need the footnotes, you need
Yes.
everything else that
Right.
So,
How you got
so let me
there.
ask a question. Would you like text in there that says that and then the actual numbers in the attachment or the numbers in the report?
I mean, if we were explaining this to our kids, what would we tell them about where this data came from?
Okay, so the text.
I mean, I think the chart's helpful, so a paragraph underneath it,
Got it.
how this
Got
was
it.
developed.
I'm also assuming that this 8 cents, this is part of the incentive period, right? We have no clue where these tax rates are gonna fall once the incentives disappear. And that
Right.
needs to be
Well,
really
you
clear.
can because you know this would be our tax rate if we didn't have this 8 cent buy down.
Would have been.
Right, would have been.
Except that programs are gonna change with these 3 schools.
Exactly.
Where, you know,
That's what I'm saying is we
governments-
can't give you an exact
Exactly,
number.
but that's why I'm just saying that as Laura was saying, this needs to be really clearly spelled out that this is a guesstimate.
This is a snapshot of what would have been.
Yes.
But the other thing I can tell you for sure is that nobody's gonna make a budget and nobody's just gonna give everybody a tax bill. The voters of this, whoever decides to come into the group are the ones that are gonna approve a budget and, and they'll have information at that time when they vote on it just like we do now. It's just instead of Marlboro School Board sitting up there saying, this is how much we're gonna spend and this is how much your tax rate's gonna be, it would be this new group sitting there saying, this is how much your tax rate's gonna be and this is how much we're
We just have to
spending.
be really clear that these incentives go away.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Randy?
Talking about the money and tax rates, here's some other things we really haven't addressed that we need to. And I sent an email around a couple weeks ago, sort of touching on it. The buildings, the hidden costs of all this, we need to really sort of comb those out. For example,
Okay.
I don't know what kind of deferred maintenance there is on any of these three buildings. And you have to look at it like you're buying a home or buying a business. What are the assets versus the liabilities? What are the hidden costs that I may be hit with in a year that I don't know now? Does Wardsboro need a new gym floor? Does Dover need a new roof? Does Marlboro need another purple paint job? We need to know those things.
Always.
I think that's
Right, but what's the cost of that? And I can tell you, there's gonna be voters in the other towns that are gonna say, well, why the heck should I pay for a purple paint job on a school building, right? So,
Costs the same as well.
can we, can we get that data, or if not, can we hire someone to go through the buildings? So you are picking up on that?
Well, there is no capital plan in the supervisory union for the schools.
But there are
So I-
for individual
So
schools.
I do know that.
Yeah.
So if each of your schools has that, the central office doesn't know about it, so I need to get it.
Dover has one, don't we?
Yeah. Does Wardsboro have a capital plan?
Yes.
Does Marlboro have a capital plan, Marlboro School
Yes.
Board
Yes.
members? Okay.
So if I
Okay.
get that,
So that's a
the
plus.
option is, and
We
I,
have a plan that says in 10 years, we don't
We
put
have a-
money aside each year for,
We have a plan.
we have,
We may not have a lot of money
Okay,
in there.
hang
but
on,
we have a
folks.
plan.
We'll let Marlboro argue that out. So, the Marlboro representatives that are here, from the school board, you need to get whatever you have
if you get
to
that,
John.
that'd be good.
And then he can, if he needs more, then he can contact you. Yeah,
One more
finish.
point on that.
Oh, go ahead.
Reserve funds. We need to know what towns, if any, have reserve funds, how much is in those funds, what's gonna happen with that money,
What the funds are for.
and what the funds are for. Because you can just hear a voter in a town that has a reserve fund saying, well, we've been putting money into that reserve fund for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and now all of a sudden it's gonna get spread between 3 towns. What am I getting for that money that I basically approved for in my taxes?
And also, we talked about debt too. If
Yeah,
there's any
that's the
bond.
assets and liabilities part.
Yeah, yeah.
The debt is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's gonna just get merged through the town. But it's all those little things that taxpayers feel they own. Like, you look at the value of the 3 schools, Rich. You got one school that's almost 5 times as valuable as the other school, according to the insurance policies. So the voters in Dover might say, geez, we put a lot of money into our school. Maybe Wardsboro has, maybe Wardsboro hasn't, we don't know. So are we now gonna have to bring that school up, and then how much is that gonna cost us? So those are some of the questions that are gonna come up, that all of us are gonna have to be able to stand up and answer in our respective informational meetings. So we just need to be aware of those, and we need to be working on those. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, that stuff probably doesn't need to go into the presentation you're gonna send up to the state, but we're sure as heck gonna need it for the voters.
Right. The state will want to know some pieces in a general way, like you brought up the any reserve funds.
Right.
So what's the plan for dealing with that? And it could be, and you'll have to talk about it, but it could be as simple as the new board works with the existing boards to equalize reserve funds. You could just put a line in there like that and give that to them. Or you could say, this is what we think ought to happen, everybody get rid of all their reserve funds. But
And that's part of the Articles of Agreement, there's talk of transfer of resources.
Yeah, I know from a dozen or so years ago when Wilmington and Whitingham merged with the first Twin Valley High School merger, they had percentages in there based on physical plant. What's the word I'm looking for? Based on the state of the physical plant, because Whitingham had a much better facility than Wilmington did at the time. do we wanna go down that road and look at that? And say, okay, you've invested a lot in your physical plant, you get a credit that is, and there's a model out there with those two towns. You've invested in your physical plant, you get a credit of X going forward for 5 years until the other plan is brought up to the similar standard. I don't know if we wanna go down that road, but we sure
Remember
as
too,
heck
though,
ought to explore
Wilmington
it.
and Whitingham was not a unified, they were a joint contract district. With the unified
But
district.
the voters aren't gonna split that hair, Rich,
Well,
they're gonna wanna know what they're getting for their money.
Right, and I don't believe the state has the ability, and John will have to check that, because everything I've read, there's no ability to do that.
You need to do that before
Right.
you came into operation.
Right,
Somehow you'd have to need to do that.
you'd have to do that in the Articles of Agreement.
Yeah.
So do we wanna go down that road? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
If we wanna have something that the voters might think is acceptable, cause the money thing is gonna be up front, right next to the educational quality. Cause there are voters who are gonna care about the school and what's being taught in it, and there are voters who are only gonna care about what's gonna come out of their
How much
wallet.
it's gonna cost me.
Yeah. So if we can address some of that up front, and we agree that at the end, all this stuff is good and we can stand behind it, we're gonna have to have that stuff in there somewhere.
Well, can you just find out for us, is there any way to address that ahead of time, or is that, how do we? Can
Lots
that
of ways
be-
to address it
right.
ahead of time. It's the once
Yeah, once it's
Once it
voted in,
starts,
it's
I
done.
think, yeah.
We all own it.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
just make sure, I mean, cause one of the points, so
You're buying a house sight unseen.
I have $200,000 in reserve funds, and the other two schools have $1,000. So does the school with 200,000 take everybody in town out to dinner to spend that down, so we all have 1,000? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure this.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, how do you do that? And
Do you refund it to the taxpayers?
right,
Yeah,
before
or do
merger?
you,
Or-
yeah, exactly.
you know,
we
the
need to have all those
the
answers.
purple paint again.
Yeah.
Does every school, if we were to say to Dover that, hey, you got to paint your white brick purple to match the other schools, you got to do that before the merger. I
We can
mean,
name all our teams
how do
with
you
purple paints.
pay for that?
Oh,
So, I mean, I agree, Randy. That's what we need to find out, how we can make that work.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
I guess, and again, Marlboro, something came up last time, Marlboro doesn't actually own the property, they just own the building.
Which I think is a plus for them.
Right, and maybe that's something we all want to do beforehand, is just transfer the buildings and, sell the property to the town for $1. And then it's just buildings we're dealing with, and we're not dealing with land.
Yeah.
And would that be something we would address ahead of time, or do we write that in there, or how do we deal with that?
I think you leave that to the
Because that's
individual
not
towns.
this committee's decision, that's
No.
a decision of the individual school boards.
No, I would think the new board would work with the existing boards. in that
Oh,
2
too
years.
late. That's gotta be done before the vote.
Right, because the vote,
Before-
It's for the same
No,
reason you
no,
just said with the
but
money.
it's not implemented until 2019. So there's a
right.
transition time
while the
of
new.
a couple of
right.
school budgets.
Yes.
You have 2 years to transition.
But what happens to the assets at the time of the vote in 2017? Are they frozen in
No.
current stasis?
No,
You have 2 years to,
Oh, I'd be careful with that. I'm with Laura. See, Laura's making a frown over there. I agree. I'd rather have that done before that town meeting vote in March.
the
Decide
trouble is
one
you
way
do
or
that
the other.
before you
Well, no, I
know if
guess
anything's
my
gonna
fa-
happen.
My face is like, oh, I guess I missed that part. Like, you could make agreements and then make some funny moves afterwards too. Like, ooh.
Yeah, you don't wanna do that. If you're gonna make funny moves, do it before the vote.
So-
Before the divorce.
This is what, if we skip ahead to page 13, hang on folks, if you skip ahead to page 13, transfer of resources to WCEED, WeSeed, on the day of the establishment of a regional educational school district, on the day of the establishment of a regional education district becomes effective, the district gains title to the assets and assumes the existing contractual obligations and other liabilities of the member school district within its borders. Within 5 days of a red district becomes effective, so that we're not gonna be a red.
Remember, well, you're following the same process as the red.
Okay.
That's the first
The
sentence.
treasurer of each pre-existing school district shall pay by check to the treasurer of the red the full amount and the balance standing in his or her school account, and transfer to him or her all outstanding notes and contracts in force. Pardon?
Well, and at the bottom of Article 8, I underlined, different assets should be reviewed for transfer to towns. We talked about that
Right,
last
that's
meeting.
where I saw that Marlboro
Yeah.
Town owns the land.
You know, like, do you guys in Marlboro want to own a solar array that's on the Dover School property? Probably not, right? Better to get that into the town hands, because you're not getting any benefit from that.
Well, they do, because,
Well,
They might.
Because
That
they
needs to be
the
explored.
electric
do, because
bill of
electric
the
bill is
school,
reduced, yeah.
which we would be paying those
Yeah.
taxes.
But I don't know if, see, there's already a contract negotiated, so you'd have to renegotiate that.
no, well, even if just one
Yeah,
building
better.
has less electricity costs,
Still
that
gonna save it.
saves
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
And you don't have to pay the
electricity.
maintenance, you don't want it.
But who's
So-
gonna pay the maintenance? Those
so-
are the issues that have to be addressed.
So Johnny.
No, that would be addressed, because if the school owns it, then it's the unified
The
system
district.
that pays it.
But but there are other partners that are involved in that. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah,
Doesn't the
there's
town
no-
get a benefit from that
The
too?
town gets a benefit, but it's a school, it's through the school.
Okay.
So maybe you need to look at that too, the solar contracts.
Well, that would be under any any of the assets. You'd have to look at all those contracts.
Well, it says any contract that you have gets turned over to this new district.
But what it doesn't say is what happens with partners that you might have in those contracts.
Yes.
Any contract that's in existence at the time of the beginning of the operation stays in force until its expiration date. And then the new board has to renegotiate it.
Yeah,
Whatever context.
So it's just like teacher contracts.
yeah, that makes sense.
So that would be handled all the same.
So listen, everybody, it's 25 after 8. We try to stay for 2 hours. We got to the all-important articles of agreement. We kind of got the historical stuff all taken care of. Do we want to call it a night? And in 2 weeks, we'll start on the articles of agreement. And I will ask, though, those that did have a chance to look at it ahead of time, did anybody have any comments that we can give to John now? And there's a bunch of stuff in here that still is up in the air and that you were gonna change or you were looking at.
Yeah, I think,
The most important thing is page 11. We had discussed early on that we would make every town advisable, both so that if any 2 towns out of the 3 voted for it, that they could still do it, because we invested a lot of time. One Marlboro board member made a comment in Brattleboro that they were the only advisable one, and I don't know if we've decided that yet, so that's something we need to really think about. Do we wanna have all 3 towns be advisable, or do we not wanna have all 3 towns be advisable?
Can you do it with all 3
Yes.
advisable and no necessary?
Yes, that actually came from, that's what the Leland and Gray side is doing, they're making all towns
I like it.
advisable.
I think it leaves more flexibility.
Yeah.
Do we wanna set that in stone tonight?
I'm comfortable
You
with
get
that.
the
Can we do that without talking to the board?
Flies.
So they wanna, why
Do
don't,
we
I
have
think
that
that's a
divided?
pretty important decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that one, I'd like to see somebody
Yeah.
make a motion in a second and we could actually vote on it.
I would encourage you not to do
Not
that. I
to?
would encourage you
Okay.
just to get a sense of the group, because we're still waiting for some feedback from the agency.
Whether we can do that or not.
Just to, and if you get yourself an emotion, it's unnecessary, really.
Laura has an emotion.
Always.
John,
Yeah.
what are the downfalls? Are there any downfalls to everybody going advisable? I mean, it does seem like a no-brainer to me, like, pretty, like.
As long as everybody is okay with any 2. Now, the biggest downfall I see for you is that Vernon and one other, because then Vernon is so much bigger than any of you, that it's a little bit of a,
Well, that's why I said early on, we need to decide what to do with Vernon, and to me, they haven't really shown a lot of real interest, so we just need to move on without them.
I agree with that.
so that's the only problem that's.
Yeah, and I would
bumps
agree
up
with,
for
that's the big downside I would see. But of the 3 towns that are actively working, I don't see a real downside to it, that's my opinion.
Dwight,
Well, other than what you said to start out, the voters aren't gonna know what they're voting for. It's like which 2 or 3 are gonna happen. If 2 are, if if they're all advisable, we don't know what we're voting for. I think a lot of people in town just,
They won't know what they're voting for anyways.
well, at
because
least they'll know.
If everybody
But
votes
if
both.
two are, permanent, what's the word again?
So,
Necessary, two are necessary, at least they'll know that those two have to be together.
Go ahead, Randy.
I think John's right. We shouldn't make any decision on that tonight.
I think we should go back to our towns, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Talk to them.
just,
But
everybody,
you do want me to take Vernon out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at this point,
And
yes.
if they come in later, they can put a supplemental thing into to the state, and the state will ask you, are you guys okay with that? But put
Yeah.
the burden back on them. I mean, you're
Yeah, I
carrying,
agree.
you're carrying their water right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we don't need to carry their water. I think we need to
you wanna
remove
vote on
them.
that, or do you just move forward with that?
We'll just do it.
Is there anybody that would be against removing Vernon from this right now? Okay, I hear nothing against, so go ahead and do that then. And I'll call Vernon and just let him know that we decided to do
Send out a
that.
press release.
Yeah, there
I'll
you
tell
go.
him, I'll tell him to watch the TV show.
Goodbye,
Vernon.
Someone's gotta watch it.
It'll be aired on BCTV.
Okay.
They'll find out hard.
We need
Awkward
to,
breakup letter.
so we'll send something out, hang on one second, ma'am. And then, make sure, we'll try to get it read ahead of time, and I'll try to bring copies for people too, so we can just say, okay, let's read this page, and I'll have to read to you. Ma'am,
I was just thinking about the Vernon thing. Are we saying we don't wanna be including them in the articles because we're not interested in them at all, or we're just saying it because they haven't shown up and haven't shown any interest? I mean, it's kind of, they're different. I mean, if you would like them and the dollars look better and the opportunities are better, but if they haven't shown any interest.
go ahead, Randy, you wanna?
I'm saying we should include them for a number of reasons. First and
I
foremost
didn't
is,
hear your sentence say that. You should or shouldn't?
I don't think we should.
Okay.
One, they haven't participated.
Yeah.
Two, if you look at in the articles, they would have all the power in the new group. And they haven't participated.
Yeah.
So, as John said, why would we carry their water?
Okay, okay.
And I
Just
think
wa-
they're
just
trying to
wanted
play
understand.
a group of different, Vernon's trying to have a bunch of different angles going right now, so.
Okay.
If they wanna come in when we've already got something established, well, then we hold the cards.
And at the end of the day, let's just play this out. Let's say
Yeah.
let's say you form a unified union with 2 or 3, and Vernon ends up an orphan. They could easily be assigned to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, or the other thing is,
People with power.
on election
Well,
day,
or
if
not.
Vernon gets released from everything and says, now we're really interested, we can allow him back in at any time we want to too,
Yeah.
so. I think for right now, it's just creating a lot of issues, so I think that's the big move, and everybody's in agreement.
Well, okay, except that changed things a little bit. And this is just personal. I don't want to spend all the time stripping them out if I might have to put them back in.
Just take them out.
So,
Just take them out.
Except for the
Yeah.
fact we keep including
As
them in the
much-
historical aspect if they were part of it.
It's
yeah,
a lot.
I'll keep,
It's
yeah,
gotta
keep
work.
it sure.
Historical, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, take them out of the rest.
Wait,
Well, we're gonna let ladies go first, and then we'll get to you.
Only because I had my first, right? So-
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. So,
You can't even be nice anymore.
is there a need for us to make this decision tonight?
Yes, I think the problem is when John moves forward, it's gonna add additional work to the product and present to us.
Well, so may I, Mr. Chair, just ask a follow-up question of John? Would it be easier for you to continue just, okay, we're gonna leave that door open for a little bit, cause we're still saying if they come back to us, is there a timeline? Do we have a timeline for when they would come back to us?
Well, I think their vote is, don't they have the vote on?
Remember, right?
That's the
So,
vote whether or not
I
they
mean,
get released.
maybe that's the thing to do, is to say, to send them a communication and say, we're holding space for you, and we're, you're not here, we understand you have your vote, but we're only gonna hold this space for you until X time because we need to get moving, or not, I mean,
Well, hang on, Randy.
is it not the case that the tax rates that appear in these documents are calculated assuming just the 3 towns who are here, right?
He showed them all different
them all.
ways.
Oh, okay.
They're included.
Go ahead.
I think that, I mean, I think Vernon should go out of the picture. I think all three of these towns have come consistently, we have been working together consistently. Vernon has showed up sometimes, it's like a bad date, like I'm tired of like waiting to see what might happen or might not happen. And we have things that we need to continue to move forward with. We don't need to burden John with more work that has nothing to do with our three towns. I think that we need to say goodbye. And that doesn't mean that after our articles are approved and after we go through our town vote and after we're starting to implement, they can still join then. And that's that's for the new board to take up. And that's when that door can then be reopened.
What she said.
Okay, so you guys know me, so I'm gonna throw you the curveball. Here's the one issue though. If Vernon's involved, and we all agree that's 4 districts, that qualifies as a standalone merger.
It's true.
If something happens at Leland and Gray, and that group decides not to form, we can't be a side-by-side, so we have not made the preferred. Now, I think we have a really good argument if all 3 of us say we wanna be a group, to go to the state and say, here's a really good alternative model. We did all your work, we got your vote, and I would imagine the state would probably feel good with that. But Vernon makes it that they can't touch us.
Vernon can still come in after the town meeting vote.
Exactly.
I don't think that hinders us at all. Because if the Leland and Gray side goes down,
No, can it? Because then it wouldn't be.
Your residents wouldn't have voted on a unified union with Vernon in.
no, we'd have to have another vote.
You have to, yes, you
Yeah,
have
we'd
to
have to have another vote. And so what?
You have to have another vote anyway. if
Right.
Cleveland-
Right,
Yeah,
so
another vote.
Right.
I
Exactly.
think Laura's point is,
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
that's right.
If Leland and Gray falls apart,
You're gonna
it's a
have to
whole
have
new
a vote
vote
anyway.
anyway.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, because
That's
it's a
right.
component of what we're proposing.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
not,
Yes.
Because you
because the side by
no
sides
longer be a
fail.
side by
That's what we're voting
side.
on.
Or we're all gonna have to pursue
No.
alternatives.
we're not, are we voting on a side-by-side, or we're voting on
No.
a structure?
No,
that the
it's
3 of us are gonna become a unified
Yes,
school
it is.
district.
As part of a side-by-side.
as part of the side by side. Only if you, basically, you're not agreeing to do it unless the incentives are
Okay,
part of
hang
it.
on a second. Folks, it's really hard when everybody's talking out there. I can't even hear them sitting next to them.
You're probably a lucky one.
I'm-
You're voting, you're saying we're gonna form a unified union as long as Leland and Gray one works. If that one doesn't work, you're saying ours is off the table. You don't have to do it that way, but the only way you get the incentives is if Leland and Gray does it. I mean, you could just say you're gonna form a unified union, but that would be tough for the citizens to vote on, I would think, because they're giving up a lot of things you heard about tonight and then not have the
And
incentives.
getting nothing back, yeah.
So,
So I think we stand or sink or swim with that.
Yeah, and I didn't see anywhere in there that it said if the Leland and Gray group doesn't
I think it's in
become
Article
approved.
1, isn't it?
I don't see it.
The last paragraph?
It's not unless and until the voters of the, okay, I'm sorry,
No.
district. Okay, so then, you know what, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
So is everybody okay then now? Laura, you better with this? Did you guys have a comment over there? Somebody was,
I was just gonna,
go ahead.
it sounds like I don't need to say this, but I was gonna also remind everyone that because we're a K-8 Marlboro, if our town does not agree to give up our junior high, you're looking at Wardsboro and Dover and potentially Vernon. You've got Vernon really overweighing the other 2 schools.
Mhm.
So,
That's a real fear.
yeah, I mean, it may be exactly what you want, but if it's not, I would vote no now.
No, that's why I agree.
You know, they're not showing up at meetings, or they're not on the same path that all of us are on.
Okay, so I think we put that one to bed.
That was a helpful discussion.
And then the last thing, John had sent me an email and said, I think we're set, we do need to talk about moving State Board of Ed target from November to December. So we were gonna review the schedule, the tasks. And, John, what do you want?
Well, it's just, when I got back from the agency, they need the documents a lot sooner than what I was thinking. And they're not, can't promise turnaround time, given our timeline of getting it done. But it could be fine for December, for the December vote. It's just that we'll have gone through enough so that we will have pretty good assurances that the state board will take it as it's submitted, because we'll have worked it back and forth enough. So I think we're still safe with the December submission.
The December 8th, December 22nd.
Well, it would actually be going in near the end of November, the substantially
So
approved
November
articles.
24th, we would have to,
We would need to be finalizing,
okay, so
which is pretty much what's on there
what's
now.
what we have there, yeah.
Yeah.
Submit articles and state by November 10th.
So the November 10th date is going away?
No, it's staying.
It'll be a little, we'll have a little more time than that.
One more meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
November
But-
24th, you're saying.
Yeah,
so we would have to have a vote on those articles by that date.
by November 24th.
So we have 3 meetings.
Correct.
Now, they will be pretty much in shape so we'll have feedback from the agency well before that to know where we are. As far as anything that has to be changed, that they wouldn't approve. I don't think there's gonna be much, but if anything, really.
So I would just like to say, I'm very much aware that Wyndham Central has been working slowly and methodically and continuously since the passage of this law, that the 2 subcommittees have been doing the same. And I think we need to continue on in that effort and work diligently towards making timelines. And it is my expectation that when we get to that point, whenever that point is, that we will then get the support from the Agency of Education to review these and get these back to us in a timely fashion. As long as we do not delay and we continue to move forward earnestly, as we have been for a year and a half, that would be my expectation.
I was just gonna ask a question about the articles, cause just for minute-taking purposes and action items, are we, since we're gonna kind of postpone that second section of, reviewing the articles, can we just, as far as all of us reading through and do you want us to send things to you, or we just wanna hold that
No,
until?
send them,
Send things
right, send
to
them to
you?
me,
Okay.
and I can put them all together, so we're
So
not
that
sending
way,
John
John,
20
a
different.
whole different, okay. I just wanted to clarify.
So even people from the audience, if you see something or when you read that next section, my email is available you've got our
On the
individual
website.
emails on the website, I believe. Okay, we'll
Not
send,
your individual emails, no,
Okay.
it all comes to me,
okay,
and
and
then I
then
send it to you.
you can, my email's easy, it's rwerner@sauver.net, send me an email if you have something, and I'll compile them, try to get them to me in the next few days, so that it gives John more time, and then we can get this new set out. And maybe, can we have it so we can send it out, if I can get it from you on Saturday before the meeting, I can send it out Sunday, that gives you about a week, is that? gonna be
That's good.
Okay,
Good.
so get me any of your comments, if you can,
By the
say
end of the weekend.
by Monday, yeah. Okay, so the timeline, we don't need to change it or adjust it all right now.
So you have over the weekend.
We have, next meeting's in Dover, 6:30. I got nothing else. Does anybody else have any parting remarks? Somebody's gotta have a parting remark.
The 10th,
Thanks.
Thank you.
the 10th is
I
a
move
Thursday.
I move we adjourn.
Is November 10th a Thursday?
November 10th is a
Yes.
Thursday.
It is a
That's
Thursday.
when we meet. Second,
So does that make the 24th Thanksgiving Day?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, no,
That's
really?
not gonna work.
Okay, so what do you guys wanna do for that? See, Laura, you got the wrong date then. It was the 24th you were questioning.
17th, shouldn't it be the 17th? Or no?
No, the 10th, I'm actually supposed
think
to
we should
be
do the
going
17th.
on vacation
Oh.
for 3 days, but I will wait.
What do you guys wanna do? Do you wanna meet 2 weeks in a row?
Yes.
Because I don't think Thanksgiving,
Uh,
I don't eat turkey, so
I'm
it
not-
doesn't
Turkey?
matter.
Yeah, somewhere we're gonna have to meet 2 weeks in a row. Maybe we wanna meet, wow.
Well, Joan needs to have time too, I mean, I don't know what.
Well,
Well, there's only one
John's a
meeting.
busy
I'm-
guy these days.
I'm,
There's only one meeting in December.
you guys are
So,
where I'm spending my time. So,
So,
Do you have
my
a
wife is not happy
recommendation?
about this, I want you to know.
Tell her we are though.
Do you run a house in southern Vermont?
do we,
Got one for
well,
sale.
we can meet the week after the October 27th meeting or the week after the November 10th meeting. I personally would, maybe we add, just because of the time we're trying to get it done, I'd like to, maybe we meet, I don't know what the Thursday after October 27th is.
November 3rd, and then again the 10th.
Can a majority of the committee, I know we can't get everybody and don't feel like you have to drop on your sword if you can't, but is everybody, can majority of you
So
guys
that's
meet?
3 weeks in a row. And
Yep.
well,
27th, 3rd, and 10th.
there's only one meeting in December, right?
And then you'll jump from November 10th to December 8th?
Why don't
Yes,
Well,
no, yes,
That'd
when's
be
the
30
meeting in
days.
yes.
What about the
Third.
1st and the 8th and
Still trying to figure out how to
15th of December?
Well, we gotta have
Well,
stuff.
we gotta have, I'm thinking we wanna meet the 3rd and 10th and leave open the 17th in case we need that date too.
Can we go one day at a time? The third is going to be where?
Wherever
Be back
the,
here.
wherever the 10th was.
What we'll do is we'll just move everything
Wherever
up.
the 10th was supposed to be.
So the third would be in
In
Wardsboro
Wardsboro.
Oh.
at 6:30,
And then if we met, the 10th will be in Marlboro.
at 6:30.
Yeah. And if we met the 17th, it would be in Dover.
That's 4 weeks in a row.
That's,
Yeah, but it's gonna come down to crunch time.
that's too much.
10th is in, at
Or maybe
10th.
October 27th.
Well, so everybody's okay with November 3rd, Randy?
Yeah, I just,
27, 3, 10, is that where?
So we,
Rich,
Yes. Go ahead.
well, really, this is probably for John. If we go to those 3 meetings, the 27th, the 3rd, and 10th, I'm assuming that on the 10th, we're gonna vote on some articles at that meeting, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at
think
that
your-
point,
I think your point of the 17th is just have it,
Have a
people just
slot.
thinking about it in case,
Yeah.
what happens if we get a snowstorm on the
Yeah,
10th or something?
exactly. We gotta have this done before Thanksgiving,
Right, that's why,
and to the state. And we gotta have it done for our own sanity. Yeah. And then,
because once it gets sent to the state, then we got some breathing room, because,
we have other things we're gonna need to work on, but
right, our
we need to get this done and
presentations.
get it to the state.
So yes, we would still plan on December 8th,
Yeah,
maybe not December 22nd, close to the holiday. And then, but we can decide in the future, let's see how things go. I mean, we also,
meeting on the 10th.
we also may, come up with a decision that, there's such great articles, after our next meeting in October that we're just ready to ship
yeah,
them
and then
off.
in which case we could cut one of those meetings.
Yeah.
But I think we need to plan.
Let's just recap the places, Wardsboro on the 3rd,
We're
Marlboro on the
3rd.
10th.
Yes.
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 Well, we're on the 10th, okay.
Yes.
And if we have a meeting on the 17th, it'll be in Dover.
Yeah, so our rotation is Marlboro, Dover, Wardsboro. Lucy looks much better, she looks like she's getting around fine.
So
No-
for
no
posting
can.
on the internet, Rich, I should put November 17th as a tentative?
Yes,
Yes.
as a backup,
Got it.
fail-safe,
Got it.
What's the word? Rain date.
rain date.
December
Snow date.
8th, that's definite, and it's
Are you good, John?
22nd
No,
meeting
let's
will
hope.
be negotiated.
No, that's excellent. No, that's good, we got a lot done.
Okay.
Rich, are
Get
you
snow
adjourned?
to you.
We get snow.
We're gonna, in 1 second.
Okay, 'cause
Lucy, what'd you say earlier?
Nobody,
I move we adjourn.
nobody who works for me gets.
Do we have a
snow day.
second?
Second.
Global-
Randy seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I guess that could be a constructive.
Now I want to.
Really?
Oh,